The main character wakes up to the sun's rays and asks for the lights to be turned off. The lady also places her hand on someone's chest. And with a smile on his face, he asserts that a man really should have a broad chest. But at the same moment, the main character understands the situation and wonders if she is really touching a man's chest right now. And when she looks up, she sees a guy's face. The girl wonders who this Apollo is in the flesh. Who is he, and why is she there? The lady realizes she needs to try to remember what happened yesterday. In the evening, she attended a coming-of-age masquerade ball held at the Imperial Palace, and she seduced a man with a divine appearance, whom she bumped into there. And although she, of course, went there to find a worthy son-in-law for her father, still making such a mess on the very first day of coming of age is too much, so the lady silently begs her father to forgive her. And then she notices that this guy turns around and thinks that no matter how much she looks at this face, well, I can't help but smile, and if he doesn't mind, then maybe I should start an affair with him. At this time, the blonde makes some sounds, and the main character realizes that it seems he woke up, after which she thinks about what she should do. But the guy just looks at her and then gets up. He hugs the girl and kisses her forehead, after which he asks if she slept well. Judith replies that yes, but she understands that she feels somehow awkward, and the guy, noticing her facial expression, asks if she is angry. He also apologizes and claims that yesterday was his first time, so he couldn't control himself. Judith wonders what he is saying, and this guy is making her burn with shame. The girl also wonders how, with such external features, yesterday could have been his first night with a woman. And overall, he acted extremely natural and skillful in bed. Meanwhile, the blonde man said that if the lady was feeling really bad, maybe she should call a doctor. The main character screams that there is no need, everything is fine, but she wonders if he is really going to spread the word throughout the entire neighborhood about what happened that night. At this time, the blonde asks how about having a snack, because the lady is hungry. Judith says that everything is fine, because she usually doesn't have breakfast, and she will have lunch at home. While the blonde guy just rings the bell and says that if the lady keeps skipping meals like this, she'll be nothing but skin and bones, so she'll eat, and then she can go home. The main character understands that he is too persistent. However, if she does not return home as soon as possible, her father and brothers will go crazy. At that moment, the lady apologizes, but asks if he could turn away. The blonde man only moves closer to her. And he also says that they have already seen each other, so why be embarrassed now? They even told each other their names. The girl recalls how last night she said he hadn't even introduced himself, after which the boy claimed his name was Theodore. Now the main character pronounces this name. The blonde guy asks if she's remembered. The girl realizes this face is a real cheating move, and she also says she needs to say something. She's about to say something about what happened yesterday, but at that very moment, someone knocks on the door, and Theodore pulls the lady toward him. He also tells whoever is behind the door to come in. The maid asks His Majesty if he called her, and the main character wonders what he just said. And it seemed she heard a word that she should never have heard. After which, the main character asks if this is really His Imperial Majesty. The guy answers Judith that, and the main character, although she smiles in her thoughts, she only asks her to honor. The reason she reacts this way isn't just because of the rumors that he's a tyrant. The problem is, it's a passage from a romance novel she read before entering her eternal sleep. The girl said it had very touching content. In the previous world, her name was Yu Hee-soon, and she was a Brent who passed the exam. This romance novel was a fantasy. The heroine also becomes the Emperor's knight and goes through all the hardships and tribulations with him. Healing the wounds of the cold-blooded ruler, they finally get married, which signifies a happy ending. The main character immediately threw off the blanket, and she screamed that no matter how you look at it, Serena is an amazing woman, and in comparison to her, the secondary villain named Judith is simply disgusting. Judith Pellegrim. Unlike Serena, who achieved success on her own, Judith married into the family and is a despicable thing who receives no love from her family. Ultimately, out of envy festering in her heart, she begins to torment the protagonist and meets her pitiful descent into eternal sleep. The girl understood that although she could sympathize with the fact that she was unloved in her family, she was not loved. Well, finding yourself in the body of such a character is the worst of all evils. However, upon waking up, the girl regretted her words. When she opened her eyes at that very moment, the maid turned to her and insisted that it was time to eat. At this time, Judith wondered if God really had any grudge against her, since in her past life, she was also a child who was given his attention and who was able to enter university only on her third try. It's too unfair to be thrown into eternal sleep in a car accident a week before the entrance ceremony. And if we're talking about reincarnation, it should be a character who is 100% destined for a flower-strewn path, like Sister Serena, for example. Therefore, the girl begs to be sent back to South Korea because Judith will plunge into eternal sleep. At the hand of the tyrant protagonist, Theodore Grain, Lou Valdemar, is the current ruler of the empire, which controls the largest territory on the continent. He was the only heir to the imperial throne, but when the previous emperor's mistress gave birth to a son, his situation began to worsen day by day. The boy's biological mother took her own life after being falsely accused. At 19, when the boy's father died, he ascended the throne. Soon after, in a fire that arose for unknown reasons, the second prince and tyrant, who mercilessly plunged his father and brother into eternal sleep for the sake of the throne, was plunged into eternal sleep. This is a terrifying figure, and the main character of a novel called For My Emperor, inside which the main character finds herself. The girl realizes that being caught up in this affair is something special, but the protagonist was a true enemy to Judith. He even went so far as to put his fiancée Judith into eternal sleep for interfering with his affair with the protagonist. Well, then the girl understands that if she doesn't meet this idiot from the very beginning, then she can live in peace. Judith is the only daughter of the ducal family in the Valdemar Empire, and if she tries hard enough, she can live happily ever after. Even though she was treated this way, she shouldn't be sad because she is a fan of romance novels, so she can cope with her second life. And in this world, there's no place without mercy. A life free from need is filled to the brim with the warm affection of family members, whose attitude towards her was radically different from her family from her past life. Therefore, the girl understood that the life of a villainous lady with a golden spoon was the best thing that could be imagined. The lady's family suits her completely, and now all that remains is for her to deal with this idiot emperor. The lady understood that she was too crazy, so even crossing paths with him was dangerous, and it would be better not to see him at all. For this reason, the lady could not attend the New Year's ball, the Thanksgiving reception, and generally all banquets held in the imperial palace. Well, she didn't have the opportunity to live her whole life without going anywhere because she wanted to have an affair with someone, and that day there was a masquerade ball in honor of coming of age. It is a banquet for members of the nobility who have recently come of age, and the emperor leaves the reception hall every year immediately after delivering a congratulatory speech. In other words, on this day, one can confidently look for candidates for sons-in-law since her face is hidden under a mask. Well, when a girl looks at other guys, she thinks, why there isn't a single handsome guy there. She also wondered if this was the best the empire could offer her. The girl also understood that she needed to return home and asked the brothers who had refused to join her to console her. But at that moment, the lady noticed someone else. When she looked at this handsome man, she realized she had found her future husband. Well, the guy just smiled and then turned around. The girl screamed at him, after which he was sent after the guy. Well, while she was running, her mask fell off, but there was no time to get her up, and the guy had already turned the corner. Judith told him to wait, screaming that she had asked him to wait. After which, the lady followed him into some room. When the blonde turned to her, he asked whether he should call her brave or naive. He also asked if the lady had not been taught that it was not right to follow strangers so carelessly. Judith claimed that he was the first to make eyes at her, after which the guy just smiled. He took off his mask and asked if he understood correctly that the lady had succumbed to his temptation. The main character wonders why he treats her like a child, after which she pulls the guy towards her. And he kisses Theodore's mask, falls onto the field, and the guy only pulls her closer to him, after which the lady lays him down on the bed and kisses her neck, but suddenly the guy stops. After which he claims that this is unacceptable, because he should not act this way. Judith asks what exactly is unacceptable, since she is already an adult, but the blonde replies that she will regret it. The girl, smiling, replies that she won't, and then kisses him again. Now the main character looks at the food and realizes that last night was too wonderful, but now she deeply regrets what she did. The girl realizes she's gone crazy and wonders why she didn't realize there was something fishy behind that face. No matter how you look at it, this is clearly the appearance of the main character, and due to personal interest, her gaze went in the wrong direction. Well then, the girl realizes that now is not the time for jokes, after which she bows down, and also claims that she has committed an act of disrespect to His Majesty, which she does not even dare to mention out loud. If he leaves her alive, she will never appear in the master's sight again. At this time, the guy is only wondering if she is really saying that she will leave him, but the lady dared to steal the emperor's innocence and is now planning to run away. So he asks if this is really cheating. The main character is shocked, wondering what kind of theft he's talking about and whether he's gone too far. After all, it was actually a mutual agreement. The blonde turns to Judith at this point. The lady understands that, as expected, if she is destined to fall into eternal sleep, this cannot be changed, and yet she worked so hard, but in the end, she will meet her end in this way. Theodore just kisses the girl and is surprised for some reason, and the blonde says that since she dragged him into bed, it's okay. She must bear responsibility for this. Judith wonders if he's really suggesting she answer for what she did by plunging into eternal sleep. But judging by the atmosphere, you wouldn't say so. The guy seems completely expectant. The main character only feels embarrassed after this, but she claims that she is ready to take responsibility, after which he asks what is required of her. A little while later, the girl is eating, and the blonde asks her if she liked the food. The main character replies that yes, and she understands that he said to take responsibility, and he himself feeds her with treats. So the lady wonders if he really is a good man, but then she realizes that's not true. That man is a tyrant who was only kind to Serena. Still, when he smiles, he looks very good-natured. The blonde man then asks what day would be best for them to get married. The main character only chokes at this, and the guy asks if she's okay. Judith is shocked, wondering what kind of crazy ramblings this guy isn't. Theodore notices the lady coughing and asking if there is anyone outside, after which the butler comes in. The man asks who was responsible for creating the breakfast menu, to which he replies that it was the chef. And the blonde guy says that if you give bread to a person who overdid it yesterday, then isn't that the same as trying to put him into an eternal sleep? So let the guy throw the culprit in jail right now. The main character is shocked and understands this, that she just started coughing because she suddenly heard terrible words from him. After which, the girl turns to His Majesty and claims that she just chewed too quickly. The guy just puts his hand on hers and says that it's not her fault at all, because she has a piece of bread stuck in her throat, and it's the fault of the one who baked this bread. The main character, looking at the expression on this guy's face, wonders if she is really awake. After all, she never expected that there was another person in the world who looked like her father and older brothers. When the lady fell as a child, the man screamed that the gardener had left a stump in the garden, and as a result, Judith was hurt. So he claimed he was fired, but then claimed he would cut off the gardener's hand. The main character thought that this was all that was happening, after which she turned to her daddy and told him to hug her. The man and his sons fell silent after that, and then he even picked up his daughter in his arms and said, "Of course." At that time, the girl deliberately forced her father and brothers to carry her in their arms in order to moderate their ardor, and this time, too, she should do something. Therefore, the main character turns to His Majesty and claims that if the chef is fired, then she'll be very upset because this bread is very tasty. The guy just remains silent after that, and then he turns to the butler and tells him to tell the chef to pay more attention to the menu in the future and to write out a bonus. The main character realizes that she didn't think it would actually work, but the blonde man just looks at her, as if asking if he's a good man. Judith understands that, after how he nearly ruined someone's life, it is illegal to light up the world with such a smile, and the girl wonders if he is really a big puppy, since he is so eager for praise. At this point, the guy suggests returning to their conversation and also claims that he is talking about their wedding. The main character asks if he is talking about the wedding and realizes that it seems like everything she ate is about to come out. The blonde wonders if this is what she meant by taking responsibility. The girl just wonders why, despite being a tyrant, he has the qualities of a monogamist, and she so wants to refuse, because in the original work, Judith and Theo also had a political marriage, and if she follows the same path, her chances of falling into eternal sleep will increase. Well, she's also afraid to refuse him, because what if her father and brothers suffer because of her? At this time, the butler knocks on the door of the room and asks His Majesty for forgiveness, and also claims that an urgent matter has arisen. The guy then asks what happened, after which the butler tells him. The main character sighs and realizes that thanks to the servant's arrival, she survived. Theo turns to Judith at this point and apologizes, but claims that he needs to step away for a bit. He also tells the lady to rest, but he will return soon, and if she feels unwell, he will immediately tell her the way. The main character wishes him to sort out all the matters as soon as possible, after which he leaves. A short time later, the blonde man is already sitting on the throne. Alpen, looking at His Majesty, realizes that he's clearly not in a good mood today. At this time, the blonde turns to Sir Peregrine and asks why he came to him early in the morning. The man then asks His Majesty for forgiveness and asks him to allocate several soldiers and allow him to search the imperial palace. Theo asks the reason, and the man replies that his faithful servant's daughter has gone missing. The boy asks if he's talking about Miss Peregrine. The man replies that her whereabouts are unknown after yesterday's banquet at the imperial palace. He's searched the entire capital, but to no avail. Theo asks if he's talking about the banquet at the imperial palace. He then claims that a young lady has gone missing. This is a serious incident, so he gives his personal permission to search the imperial palace. The girl's father says he is deeply touched by His Majesty's kindness. However, the blonde also adds that searching the imperial palace is a serious act of assistance to the authorities, so let him not forget that this was only possible thanks to his generosity. The man says that yes, he will never forget this, and will certainly repay His Majesty for his kindness. The blonde says that it's good, and he can go after which the Duke leaves, and the guy thinks about something. Well, at that very moment, the butler bursts into the room and screams to His Majesty. And he asks what happened after, which the servant replies that the lady who was in the room disappeared. The main character is near the wall at this time and understands that she needs to make sure that everything is done correctly. First, an apologetic note was left in case the emperor's wrath was aroused. In it, the lady wrote that her family was worried, so she was going home for a short while. Secondly, the girl asked to call the court physician by stimulating the pain and then slipped out of the room while the servant was absent. Thirdly, she will ask her maid Marie to become her, and she will run away to another country. Fourthly, even if the emperor comes to visit Judith, he will only encounter Maria and be published because he won't be able to find her. And the last thing is that the problem will be solved when the emperor falls in love with Serena, like in the original, and everything will be wonderful. Then she'll return home and live happily with her daddy and brothers. The girl realizes this is truly the perfect plan. But then she remembers that she has lost the identification card needed to leave the imperial palace. At this time, someone informs His Majesty that this is Lady Peregrine's identity card. The note was lying next to the bed, and the ID was found in the hallway of the banquet hall. The blonde then remembers how the lady addressed him last night, and also how she had dinner in the morning, after which she claims that she is the very definition of charm. The servant watching his master wonders if he really wasn't in a bad mood after all. Meanwhile, another butler asks His Majesty how to punish that man. His Majesty replies that there is no need to punish anyone, since she simply went home for a short time. The servant immediately bows and cries out that he is deeply touched by the immeasurable kindness of His Majesty. The man then moves on and states that he thinks 12 hours is enough for the lady to spend time with her family. Meanwhile, Judith continued to wander near the entrance to the imperial palace. She realized that if she told the guard what had happened and confirmed her identity, she would be able to leave. Well, if that tyrant finds out she's Lady Peregrine, it'll be the end of her. So the girl wonders if there's a way to distract the guards. At that moment, someone says he'll have to stay here, and he'll accompany his father, and the main character thinks it's a painfully familiar voice. After which she turns to her brother, and the guy asks if this is really Judith. But the guard stops the lady and asks for forgiveness, but claims that she needs to show her a D. The girl's brother immediately tells him to wait, because this girl is his younger sister, and he's also the guarantor of her identity card, so let the servant quickly remove this terrible weapon from Judith. The servant immediately asks for forgiveness, and the main character understands that this is the power of the commander of the knightly detachment. The lady also thinks what a blessing it is that her older brother is nearby, so she needs to return home quickly. Meanwhile, the guy takes his sister's face in his hands and asks where she lives, asking if she disappeared yesterday, and if she was hurt, and if anything bad happened. The main character apologizes and claims she drank too much last night and fell asleep. Chiron asks if anything bad happened to her. The girl replies that fortunately, she didn't answer. She simply fell asleep, and when she opened her eyes, it was already morning, although she realizes the emperor was also lying next to her. After this, the guy says that, okay, and the main thing is that the lady is safe and sound, so he will go get her father, and she should wait for them in the carriage. Judith asks if he'll follow his father, and the boy replies that his father was so worried about the lady that he asked His Majesty's permission to search the imperial palace. The girl wonders why he went to the emperor, specifically because if she were revealed, she'd be in big trouble. So this can't be allowed. Lady immediately leans against her brother and claims that she feels very unwell because of what she drank last night. So she asks if she can just go home. The guy then insists that he'll leave first to take Judith home, and they should stay there and wait for their father. The butler agrees, and the main character mentally apologizes for having just deceived her brother. But she did it only to survive. A short time later, they were already approaching the ducal family's mansion. The lady's other brother is walking around the mansion, but at that moment, the butler enters the room and tells the young master that the lady has returned home. The boy immediately asks if Judith has been found. This young man is the ruler of a magical tower named Ludwig Pellegrim. The boy immediately turns to his sister and asks why she came with Chiron and why he's holding her hand. Is she really hurt? Meanwhile, the main character only turns to her brother and asks what stained his clothes. It looks like a red liquid. The guy just smiles and tells the girl not to worry, because he never puts good people into eternal sleep. At that moment, someone cries out to Judith. He also says the child has returned home and asks if she knows how worried her father was all night. Looking at the broken door and the remaining handle, Judith realizes that all three family members are gathered together. This is the commander of the Night Squad, who is the first brother, the Lord of the Magic Tower, who is the second brother, and her father, who is the head of the Noble Council. The plot set up there turned out to be excessive. Meanwhile, the main character apologizes, and the man says everything is okay now because her dad is with her and asks if the girl is hurt. Chiron says Judith said she felt unwell. The man immediately cries out, "Is this really so?" and then tells him to call a doctor immediately. The main character only mentally asks them to know the measure. A little while later, the girl is already sitting in her room, and the doctor claims that the lady, an upset stomach due to drinking too much alcohol. The lady's father immediately cries out if there's a way to immediately get rid of this ailment. And Ludwig cries out for honey water to be brought quickly. Chiron tells his sister that if she's feeling unwell, she doesn't have to hold back. At this time, the main character thinks that if she disappears from the sight of the inhabitants of this house for even a second, then trouble cannot be avoided. The girl also turns to her father and brothers and says that she is now completely fine, so they can return to their work because each of them occupies a very important position. And what's more, she felt much better just from seeing the faces of her family members. When the main character looks at her relatives' faces, she realizes they look very gullible. As they leave the room, one of the brothers tells his sister he'll quickly finish his business and return to her, to which she agrees. A little while later, the girl opens the window, and the maid turns to her and asks if the mistress is really leaving. She also claims that being a lady's double is too difficult for her, but the main character tells Maria that this is for everyone's happiness, and if her father suddenly says anything, then let her show him this letter. The girl also says that she's leaving. A little while later, she approaches the fence and realizes that she's certain there's a hole leading out somewhere. When the girl finds it, she crawls through it and realizes that she has ruined her reputation as a lady in every possible way. Nevertheless, the escape was successfully completed, and now all that remains is to get to the port. But at the same moment, someone addresses the lady by name, and when she raises her head, His Majesty sees her, claiming he has come for her. A short time later, the servants greet His Majesty, and the main character understands that in the end, she has returned again to the lair of the tiger, or rather, the dragon. She also understands that the imperial palace fully lives up to its name, drowning in luxury. When the lady gazes at one of the paintings, the guy asks her if she likes it, and if she'd like to take a closer look. Judith replies yes, and understands she's in no position to refuse. The blonde claims that the empire's first rulers were said to be half human and half dragon. The dragon is the symbol of the imperial family, so they worship its power. And even now, from time to time, members of the imperial family are born who inherit the dragon family. Judith wonders if he's really praising himself right now in a challenging listening form. According to the original description, the dragon power inherited by Theo is firstly a body as strong as dragon scales, and secondly, the hero's strength is similar to the violence of her father or brother Chiron, and lastly, it is the sword with ego, which was used by the first emperor. The girl realizes that this guy has gotten his hands on everything he can, while the blonde man suggests they go, to which the main character agrees and understands that since his role as the main male character is reinforced by so many passes, he must be recognized as the emperor, despite the fact that he plunged people into eternal sleep. And besides, he will soon meet the main character and find the love of his life. Then she will gain freedom and the plum-healing life of a minor character. Well, when the blonde guy undresses, the main character screams in shock at what he's doing now. It may be presumptuous of her to say so, but she's not yet ready for a night with His Majesty. The guy then apologizes, claiming he simply needed to change, and now he can only give her his clothes, but tomorrow morning he will call the best couturier to make her outfits. The main character tells him not to apologize and thanks His Majesty for his concern, but she still wonders why he had to undress like that, confusing her. A little while later, she is already putting on a robe and shirt, and His Majesty looks at her with embarrassment. Judith turns to him and says she's wearing what he gave her, but the lady realizes the sight leaves a somewhat strange feeling. The blonde man then apologizes, and the main character asks what he's talking about. The guy claims that he thinks she pushed him away because he couldn't control himself and he should have been more attentive yesterday. When the main character looks at this guy, she wonders why he looks miserable. The lady insists that everything was fine yesterday, so there's no need to torment yourself like that. Then the blonde man approaches her and offers to do it again. Judith is embarrassed, wondering if he's really going to take the initiative this time. But the guy simply says that it's time for them to go to bed, as it's already late, and wishes her good night. Judith realizes that she planned to have nothing more to do with the Emperor, so it's a good thing nothing will happen. Well, the lady wonders if he really doesn't know when to stop and why he's so mean. The next morning, the girl wakes up with him again and says that a man really should have a wide chest. At the same moment, the blonde asks if she really likes his chest so much. The main character, realizing the situation she's in, immediately apologizes, but the guy says she can keep touching her because he doesn't mind. The main character realizes that she is in trouble again and wonders what kind of damned hands she has. At this time, the guy apologizes for his tactlessness and picks her up in his arms, which surprises the lady, after which he carries her to the table and asks if the girl feels better and says that she should eat something. Judith replies that she feels much better than yesterday, and the blonde man asks if that's true and says what a relief it is. When a girl looks at him, she thinks why he is in such a good mood, and because of this, she can't shake off a bad feeling. At this time, the guy starts talking about their wedding, after which he asks when it would be best to hold the ceremony. He asks if it would be better to do it the day after tomorrow, and the main character wonders if he has really fallen out of his mind and should generally let him have the wedding alone. She has serious problems, and he has absolutely no intention of listening to her words, so at all costs she must prevent this wedding from taking place. The girl thinks that her brain cells should process the food they were given, after which she claims that, to be honest, she dared to lie to His Majesty. The guy asks if this is really true, and the main character replies that yes, and in reality, she is not Lady Judith, but a maid at the Duke's residence. The guy just smiles after this, and the lady claims that when she said she wanted to go to the imperial palace, the lady sent her to the masquerade ball in her place. But she is a commoner and cannot marry His Majesty because there will be many people who will oppose her, so she asks you not to do this. The girl wonders if her excuses are meager, after which His Majesty approaches her and asserts that everything is fine because she is the one he wants to marry and who would dare to oppose it. Judith realizes that after these words, she has no argument left at all, and it is now May. And Theo meets Serena at the Harvest Festival in September, so the girl thinks if there is a way to somehow drag out time until then. The lady also tells His Majesty about the cherry blossoms, because she wants to have her wedding on the day when the cherry blossom petals fall from the trees like snow. She also asks if he is against it and understands that the cherry tree will only bloom in March of next year, and she probably went too far. Well, after this, the blonde guy agrees and proposes to get married on the day when cherry petals start flying. At the same time, in the duchy's residence, a man asks if the maid is saying that Judith has disappeared, after which the maid apologizes, but claims that the mistress said that he would understand everything when she gave him this letter. The man then opens it and reads, "The girl wrote to her beloved brothers and father that by the time they read this letter, she would already be far from home. Yesterday, at the masquerade ball, she made a huge mistake in front of the emperor, so she will hide for a while for fear that the sparks of his anger could spread to her precious household. When His Majesty comes to look for her, let them show him Maria, saying that it is she, and perhaps His Majesty will surrender when he realizes that it is not the one he is looking for." She was sorry to make them worry, but she wanted her brothers and father not to worry too much and to be healthy until they met again. A man with shaking hands asks how badly this crazy emperor scared their daughter that she decided to run away from home, after which he turns to Chiron and Ludwig and also tells them to take the knights and search the capital, because she could not have gone far, to which they agree. After which, one of the brothers asks, "What about their father?" And he replies that he will go to the imperial palace. At this time, the main character yawns and realizes that she is tired, and it is probably all because she had to go through a kind of fashion show in the morning while choosing clothes. And besides, there was a fuss when she tripped and stepped on the hem of her dress. The girl understands that His Majesty really behaves the same way as her household. Well, when they are heading down the corridor, the main character notices some portrait. She realizes the man in it has dazzling blonde hair and deep blue eyes. He was a stunning beauty even at such a young age. The main character also asks His Majesty if this child is really a lie, and the guy asks if she found out right away. Judith replies that even if the painting is turned upside down, the child depicted in it will still be his spitting image. After this, the guy asks her if anything else comes to mind, and the main character thinks about what answer he wants to hear. After which he asks if he was handsome since childhood, but the guy just turns away and says the state is correct. The main character, seeing his reaction, asks if she said something wrong, and the guy's answer that she didn't. Judith understands that it is obvious to the naked eye that he is worried about something. After which she asks His Majesty why he wants to marry her, to which he replies that it is because she spent the first night with him. Judith asks, what if he suddenly spent the night with some other woman, to which the guy replies that this would never happen. But the main character understands that after meeting Serena, he will change his mind. The girl also says that nevertheless, he may regret that he tied the knot with a man with whom he simply spent one passionate night, and perhaps he will meet someone better than her. But the blonde turns to Judith and claims that there is no one better than her, and even if there is, he does not need this person, because the lady is the only one his heart desires, and it's okay even if she doesn't remember the details. However, let her remember one thing forever, and that is that he will not do it under any circumstances. He refuses to let her go, after which the guy kisses the lady's hand. This embarrasses the main character, but at that very moment, she hears someone screaming that he can't enter. The main character wonders who it is because this voice is painfully familiar, so she is very anxious. At that moment, the lady's father breaks down the door and asks if His Majesty is there. And when he goes inside, he sees his daughter. The main character, Datova, is surprised. And a little while later, the entire family is already at the table with the emperor. The blonde man, smiling, invites them to begin the meal. And the main character wonders if anyone could swallow a bite in such an atmosphere. The Duke at this time turns to His Majesty and asks what the hell the lady has sinned against him in, and if he tells him what happened, then he as a father will accept the punishment instead of his daughter. The main character thinks that this is not possible, because in that case, this work will become a romance between two men. The blonde replies that the lady committed a very serious sin and is about to say that they spent the night, but at that very moment, the main character coughs. The brothers are worried about their sister and immediately ask if she's okay. Meanwhile, the blonde tells the butler to call a doctor. But the main character says that there is no need because she is fine and understands that in any case, this is fate from which one cannot escape. Judith sheepishly says that in fact, on the day of the masquerade ball, she and His Majesty spent the night together. The lady's brothers are shocked by this, but His Majesty just sits with a smile on his face. The Duke asks who she's with and what she's done. The main character apologizes. She realizes that she didn't attach much importance to something like one time or something like that, but the fact that her family is disappointed in her. The Duke at that moment slams his hand on the table and asks how His Majesty is. He dared to spend the night with his daughter. The main character is surprised by this and thinks that his opponent is actually a tyrant. The lady also tells her father that there was a misunderstanding because she approached His Majesty. But her brother cries out, "What kind of shamelessness is this? Did His Majesty really force the naive Judith to say such a thing?" Another brother also says it's unfortunate that the man to whom he swore allegiance turned out to be a vile thief, and their father cries out that it's true. And does their little angel lack something for her to take such a step as seducing a man like His Majesty? The main character mentally belittles them, stop it, and wonders if she's the only one who values life. At this time, the blonde says that even if they don't believe it, it doesn't change the fact that the lady took his innocence and she promised to take responsibility for what she did. The Duke then asks if he really means to say that, because of one night the guy is going to marry Judith. Theo replies that he is a man who is very sensitive to the concept of chastity, and he decided to give himself entirely to the one and only woman he loves. Judith realizes her dad is losing out a bit, and Theo says that since we're talking about marriage, he'd like to ask what day would be best for the wedding, since he's ready to tie the knot with Judith even tomorrow. The man only squeezes the table because of this, and the main character seeing this tells him that he shouldn't do this. When the father looks at his daughter, he finally calms down, after which he says everything that he heard, that in their days there is nothing reprehensible in that unmarried men and women make love, and they spent the night by mutual consent, so he believes that she did not commit any unforgivable mistake before His Majesty. After which the lady's father says they'll go, Judith wonders if the tyrant will be invincible if he sits idly by in a situation like this. The Duke turns to his daughter and says that she must be tired, so he suggests that they return home quickly. But at that very moment, the Emperor turns to Sir Peregrine and asks if he remembers the promise he made to him that day. After all, he said he would repay him for allowing the search of the imperial palace. The Duke replies that this is exactly so. After which His Majesty states that he hopes as a reward for the kindness he has shown, the Duke will agree to accept him as his son-in-law. The blonde asks what he thinks about this. The lady's brothers are shocked, after which all three ask if His Majesty has gone mad. The main character thinks the situation is dire, and at this rate the father and his brothers will be accused of treason. After which the girl screams for them to quiet down. The rest of her family just thinks how cute it is. After all, the lady is already raising her voice at her dad and older brothers, so his daughter is already quite big. The Emperor understands that she had to clench her fists and strain with all her might to produce such a loud sound. The main character, meanwhile, suggests a different approach. After all, they don't know each other well yet, so she will come to the imperial palace every day to meet with His Majesty. And if after some time His Majesty does not change his mind, then they will return to the conversation about marriage. The Duke tells Judith he's against it, but the protagonist firmly replies that objections are not allowed. Since she messed things up, she must take responsibility for it. Judith also realizes that it may be time to put the finishing touches on things. She turns to her dad and brothers and offers to go home, to which they agree. And when the lady leaves, someone else addresses her. Turning around, the girl sees the Emperor. Looking at his face, she understands that she can't give in to weakness when he makes such a face, after which she only bids him a cold farewell. A little while later, the girl wonders if she did everything right. Even though she had to raise her voice, she was afraid to go to the meeting with Theo tomorrow. The girl wonders if this means that she will fall into eternal sleep even before the events of the original begin to unfold. But then she realizes that she can't give up, because the reason Judith's life ended is because she interfered with Theo and Serena's relationship, so she must desperately protect her. The love story between these two, if we consider it a short-term affair, then she could break up with Theo at any moment. His face is as flawless as a dish from the best restaurant in the capital, and you can enjoy this view for some time. The girl also understands that she thinks the Emperor is a little softer than in the original, and she is sure that he was an extremely rude and harsh character before meeting Serena. But then the girl wonders why there is a smile on his face so often. At that moment, someone knocks on her room, and when the lady tells the person behind the door to come in, then two brothers enter her room. Judith realizes she feels a little awkward about what happened that afternoon. Ludwig tells his sister that after so long, he thought about organizing a special lesson on teaching magic and asks how the girl feels about it. The main character replies that she too would be happy to practice. People understand that although this is now common knowledge, but as they say among the ancestors of the Pellegrim family, there were representatives of the demonic race. Therefore, the descendants of the family are born with a strength that exceeds human strength, as in the case of her father and older brother. The body Judith entered into inherited another different power of the demonic race. And if you ask what it is, who is this useless ability to absorb magic? When the brother's blow hits the lady's back, a shield immediately forms on her, which protects her. The main character says that she couldn't dodge again, and her brother suggests taking a little break. A little while later, the girl turns to her brother and claims that no matter how much she thinks it seems, she has no talent for magic, so perhaps she can stop holding these special classes. Ludwig tells his sister to listen and believe that in the world men are divided into exactly two types. The main character asks what he means, and the guy claims that some of them are trash, while others are pure garbage. The main character practically tramples on such words. Chiron asks if Judith is okay, to which she replies that she is, and Ludwig says, who knows what kind of hangnails she'll have to deal with in life, so it's better to master the basics of self-defense magic. And besides, she has the heart of an angel, which is why she agreed to meet with that damned emperor every day. Judith understands that he still likes the fact that she's dating Theo, and the lady is interested in what kind of men the brothers are. Ludwig replies that he and Chiron are good-natured trash and don't know anyone except their little sister. But at that moment, his other brother slaps him on the forehead and asks who he's calling trash. The main character smiles in response. She realizes that she's nevertheless glad her brothers aren't angry with her for what happened that day. When the girl moves on, she realizes that after the training, she feels somehow lighter in her soul. Walking down the corridor, the lady notices her father and addresses him. The two approach the balcony, and the man asks if the ladies are planning to visit the imperial palace tomorrow, where that wild beast is located. The main character replies that there is no need to worry too much about her, and understands that anyone looking from the outside will think that she is already being married off. The girl also tells her dad to listen to what happened during the day, but the man only apologizes to his children for scaring her back then. The Duke also claims that Judith is already an adult, and there is no sin in having a deep relationship with someone. However, neither he nor her brothers will be satisfied with anyone she brings. Nevertheless, let the lady remember one thing carefully. After all, no matter what choice she makes, Judith will remain the most precious person to them. The main character almost cries and realizes that she is truly loved very much. The girl hugs her father and claims that she loves him, and is also really happy that she was born, his daughter Judith. Understands that she has such a strong hold of protection in the form of her family, so what in this world is she afraid of? At this time, the blonde is in his office and tapping his finger on the table. The butler, observing him, realizes that his master is not at all focused on his work. His Majesty then turns to Alpin, and he orders that a tear of hysteria be quickly obtained. Meanwhile, the boy is wondering if this is what he was thinking about. This is the most expensive diamond ring sold on the black market in recent times. And the day came when His Majesty, like a stone statue, proposed marriage to a girl. He had already thought the emperor was impotent. At this time, the blonde guy tells the guy to find some more cherry trees in bloom, and no matter how much money it takes, just let him find them. Alpin apologizes to His Majesty and claims that all the cherry trees bloomed last month and won't bloom again until next year. The emperor merely says that the servant is being very talkative today, and if something is impossible, then let him make it possible. At this point, Chiron is looking at some paper. He thinks about the emperor and realizes that he is the biggest thief in the world. Riding his horse across the battlefield, he had absolutely no interest in women, but how dare he lay eyes on Judith? The butler turns to the young gentleman, and when he turns around, he asks what is going on. The servant replies that there's an important guest at the door. The emperor then enters Chiron's room and wishes him good morning. The young lady's brother realizes that the idiot he's trying to send into eternal sleep has come there himself. The blonde merely comments that the boy apparently shows him no respect now. Chiron, trying to contain his anger, claims that today is indeed a good morning, but wonders what brought His Majesty there at such an early hour. The blonde man replies that he came for Judith. The lady's turn asks why His Majesty came for her. The emperor asks if she said she was coming to meet him, and Chiron replies that his sister is still asleep. The blonde says that's wonderful, because he came just to see her sleeping face. But the brunette screams that it's impossible, because his sister can't sleep normally when someone is next to her. The emperor only asks with a smile on his face if he is serious, since she was snoring so sweetly in his arms. After which, the two exchange glances, and the servants watching them mentally ask Mistress Judith to wake up quickly and stop them. A little while later, the main character opens her eyes and realizes that she felt something like a desperate call mentally transmitted. The lady also turns to Maria and asks if she can help her change her clothes. Well, when the girl doesn't see anyone, she thinks it's strange. At that moment, the maid turns to her mistress and says she woke up so early. The main character is wondering what is going on and where everyone has gone, and the maid is wondering if the lady really doesn't know. After all, His Majesty the Emperor arrived early in the morning to take her to the imperial palace. A little while later, Judith comes down the stairs and realizes that everyone has gathered in the young gentleman's room on the second floor, and she also thinks about what other troubles her household is going to cause. When the girl looks into the room where everyone is gathered, she hears her brother saying that this is the first picture that Judith painted, and it depicts him. Chiron wonders if the girl hasn't emphasized his key features, as it clearly shows that Ludwig was taller than his peers from a young age. The main character watching this is only embarrassed and wonders what they're showing the emperor. The blond man asks how he can convey the essence of a concept with just a few strokes, and abstract art is his style. Judith wonders why he agrees with them so earnestly. A short time later, he's shown the doll Judith gave Karan for his birthday. Theo insists he definitely prefers free-form forms that break free from conventional molds. The two also show a letter the girl wrote for Ludwig's birthday, and the boy wonders if her handwriting wasn't already particularly elegant back then. His Majesty replies that indeed, and he also wants to receive a letter from her. Well, the lady left him only one thing, and the main character thinks about it. She realizes that she didn't give Theo anything, after which she wonders if she's talking about the note she left back then, saying that she's sending me a long welcome home. At this time, Ludwig shows Judith a bag of cookies that he gave her, which she baked herself, and although they ate the cookies, they kept the bag as a souvenir. At this time, the main character is thinking about what to do with these bastards and why embarrassment is her lot. When His Majesty wants to touch the bag, one of the brothers immediately removes it and screams for the guy to take his hands away, otherwise there will be fingerprints left. A little while later, the main character is already sitting next to the Emperor, and the artist is drawing them. The girl wonders if he is really so envious of his brothers, and at such moments, he really does remind her of the blockheads from her house. The girl also understands that painting a portrait takes a lot of time, and because she has been sitting motionless for a long time, her eyes begin to stick together. After which, the main character closes her eyes and leans against the Emperor. When the guy notices this, he turns to Judith, but realizes that she has already fallen asleep, after which he calls Alpin over and whispers something. The artist watching them wonders what happened. And is the Emperor really angry? Because he took too long when His Majesty himself ordered him to draw slowly. At this point, the blonde picks up the girl and says that he thinks the artist has more or less captured the essence of color rendering, so when he's finished, let her take the painting to his office. To which he agrees, but still wonders why the Emperor was suddenly in such a hurry. A little while later, Ludwig is heading somewhere. One of his colleagues whispers to another about why the mad dog is in such a bad mood today, since he's downright furious. The other one replies that he doesn't know, but since he even went to exterminate monsters that he doesn't usually hunt, it means that he's clearly furious. Ludwig, at this time, recalls how the Emperor claimed to be taking his sister to the imperial palace, and cursed him. The guy also uses magic and wonders if he is really going to manipulate the timid and weak-willed Judith as he pleases. Well, at that very moment, he notices a bird with a letter, and when he unfolds it, he is surprised. The main character is in bed at this time, and the Emperor watching her understands. That this is pure torture, Judith says in her sleep that she's cold. Theo understands that it's absurd to see her like this. He then turns to Judith and states that he is having a hard time keeping himself under control, so he suggests waking up quickly. The main character opens her eyes and asks what he is talking about, after which everyone understands that the Emperor is standing in front of her. The blonde asks if she slept well, and the girl thinks about what kind of situation this is and why she is there. At this moment, someone knocks on His Majesty's door and claims the ruler of the Magic Tower is requesting an audience. The protagonist wonders if it could be Brother Ludwig. At the same moment, the guy enters the room and turns to his sister and also asks whether nothing happened. The girl replies that no, and His Majesty sternly asks what this important question is. Meanwhile, Ludwig is wondering why this guy is lying there and why it's all somehow suspicious. The guy claims he was informed that chimeras were discovered this morning in the forest on the western outskirts of the capital. One of them was immediately plunged into eternal sleep, and the other disappeared and is now being tracked down. The main character wonders if they are talking about chimeras, and in this novel, there is only one person who knows how to control such creatures. This is the second prince, known to the world as Undead, and he is the main villain of the novel Sephiron Icart. The second prince was the illegitimate son of the late emperor and his mistress. However, he was an ordinary person, unlike Theo, who inherited the power of the imperial family. Therefore, the boy's mother, who wanted to make her son the heir to the throne, tried to change his abilities with the help of black magic. Due to a difficult childhood, Icart's spirit was broken, and after being plunged into eternal sleep by his cruel mother, all his anger was transferred to Theo, the older brother, who has everything he does not. Without any effort, and simply because he was born under a lucky star, Icart eventually dedicated himself to researching chimeras in order to gain the power of a dragon like Theo. However, Theo discovered his research, So the boy set fire to his palace, destroyed all traces of his black magic dealings, and then disappeared, leaving Theo branded as a tyrant for falsely accusing his younger brother and then putting him into eternal sleep. The girl understands that if you think about it, then Icard is also a little sorry, because anyone who grows up in such an environment will have a blackened heart, and although plunging people into eternal sleep is still wrong. But when she was Yuhi's son, she also had an inferiority complex, but now everything is different. The lady's brother says that this is because the emperor has to pay close attention to even the smallest details of the empire. He hopes that from now on, he will be able to see His Majesty often and speak with him in person. This can be interpreted as meaning that from now on, he will be making unexpected visits to the emperor, so he needs to behave properly. The blonde says that he is touched by Ludwig's devoted heart. The boy replies that he is grateful that His Majesty recognizes his devotion. He also claims that it's already quite late, so he'll pick up his little sister and they'll go home. The main character also bids farewell to His Majesty. She also understands that she'll need to console Theo tomorrow. As she's heading out in the carriage with her brother, Ludwig asks what he told her about what to do if a strange man tries to touch her. Judith replies that she should smash his face with magic, but her brother replies that no, and that it would be much safer to grab him from below and yank him sharply. Taking advantage of his paralysis from the pain, she elbowed him in the face with all her might. Judith realized she was feeling uneasy, and the guy wasn't going to come pick her up every day like that. A short time later, the man turns to his daughter and states that he and his older brothers have decided that from now on, they will pick her up from the imperial palace every day at 5 p.m. Judith realizes that she knew something like this was in store for her and then agrees with her father. The lady understands that she is, of course, glad that unlike in her past life, her family will take care of her, but nevertheless, they are overprotective of her. Judith realizes that this is just her stress building up, and she wants to grab a bite of this after dinner. A short time later, the coachman tells the lady that if she's caught on a secret expedition, the master will be furious, so she should hurry up and buy what she wanted and come back. The girl replies that everything is fine, because even if she is caught, she will take full responsibility. After thanking the coachman, the lady went into the store. She saw that limited edition chocolate buns were in stock. After all, she was worried that at such a late hour, everything would already be sold out, so she was extremely lucky. As the girl heads to the checkout, she notices someone else entering the store, after which this guy starts looking at her, and the main character wonders why he is staring at her like that and whether this is the first time he has seen a beautiful girl. At this time, the brunette approaches the cash register and declares that he will pay for the bun that is lying on the girl's tray. And the main character wonders why he is buying her this bun. Do they really know each other? After which the girl thanks him and claims that there was no need for it. Judith also wonders if he's doing this because he fell in love with her at first sight. Ludi also says she's grateful for his concern, but at that very moment, the guy takes the package, and he turns around, leaving the girl confused. The main character runs out into the street and screams at him. She also claims to have grabbed the bun first. The girl also wants him to return it to her. When she drags this guy into tears, his hood falls off, and the girl realizes that he is handsome. At this point, the brunette asks what happened, because she took this bun first. And since she grabbed it, she could therefore lose priority from the one who paid first. Judith realizes that although he is handsome, he is a disgusting person, after which the girl says that there is such a thing as politeness. But the brunette wonders if it wouldn't be more rude to grab a person at random and take out your anger on him. And if she really wants to get the package back, then let her try to do it differently, so that he would want to give it to her. The girl's patience finally snaps, and she wonders what kind of crazy idiot this is. She also screams at how it's even possible to say such vulgar things out loud. The girl kicks him in the leg. But at that very moment, he feels pain only in his leg and wonders if he really inserted an iron rod into his leg. When the lady turns around, she yells at him to eat that chocolate bun to his heart's content and be careful not to choke. Judith realizes she needs to run away before this man gets angry. The guy at this time just sighs and says that this is what the emperor's woman is like. Then he goes into one of the establishments, and the worker asks if Mr. Eichert has returned. The guy replies that yes, after which the worker offers to give him a raincoat and asks if everything went according to plan. The brunette replies that no, and he thought that they were talking about a stupid woman who would be easy to control, but she turned out to be a tough nut to crack. But now it is clear that she will have to be persuaded in another way, so let the worker call Verdi, to which he agrees. But at that very moment, the worker turns to the gentleman again and claims that there was a bag with something in the pocket of his robe. He also asks what to do with it, and the guy replies that there is no need for it now, so he should just throw it away. A little while later, the main character is sitting in the emperor's office and reading something. The guy, while working, glances at her and then comes to the conclusion that he does not want to work. The more he thinks about this girl, the harder it becomes for him to work, after which the blondes completely get up from their seats. The main character closes her book and wonders if he has finished yet. The emperor replies that not yet, he's just a little tired. Judith says that if he's tired, how about lying down and resting a bit? After all, working hard is certainly a good thing. But it's not worth overexerting yourself. The guy asks if she really thinks that about the main character, and he understands that if Theo goes away to rest, she'll be much more comfortable. Well, a little while later, when the guy is lying on her lap, the girl thinks about what kind of comfort she was hoping for. Judith asks His Majesty if he is absolutely comfortable, to which he replies that he is. The girl wonders if he is going to start flirting with her like that, but when she looks at the emperor's face, she realizes that today he really does look tired. After which, the main character turns to His Majesty and asks if he slept poorly today. The guy replies that yes, the lady is wondering why and whether he really couldn't sleep because of work, because if so, then she won't bother him and will leave right now. Well, the emperor is silent for a while, and then asks what clothes he should wear to meet her, how to behave to please, and what food a lady will enjoy eating, and listening to him, how charmingly she will smile. While he was imagining all this, it was already morning. He also tells Judith that he wants to do so much with her that the night isn't enough to list it all. Meanwhile, the main character wonders if this man has never been in a relationship before. Then the girl suggests they take turns trying to do everything. After all, she also wants to do a lot of things with him, but at that very moment, the guy just brings her hand to his face. And while kissing her, he claims he wants to hug Judith. The girl wonders why he suddenly turned the conversation in that direction. And she also cries out that she still needs time to prepare herself mentally. The blonde asks what she's talking about, and the lady replies that he's tired, so he should take a little nap, and then they'll continue talking about her. Theo replies that he doesn't want to sleep anymore, but the main character screams that he needs to sleep because lack of sleep has a bad effect on the body. After which, the guy finally agrees, but the girl understands that she can't say that she doesn't like Theo. After all, he has a handsome appearance and body, and to her great surprise, a sincere nature, and it's obvious to the naked eye that he's interested in her. While the lady still doesn't understand why he likes her so much, since they've known each other for a very short time. Judith understands that if he is obsessed with her because she is his first woman, then she does not like it at all. Of course, at first, she was forced to date the emperor, and she knows that they will immediately break up as soon as Serena appears on the horizon. But while they are together, she would like to build a normal romantic relationship. And even if Theo one day falls in love with Serena, the lady hopes it won't be too greedy on her part to count on him not hating her enough to send her into eternal sleep. Well then, the main character notices something on his neck and realizes that it looks like a ring. The girl wonders if he carried something like this with him. In the original work, Judith thinks she wants to take a closer look, and that this guy is definitely sleeping. When she moves her hand in front of him, she understands that he is not waking up, and when she stretches the button, she understands that she has succeeded. But at that very moment, the emperor opens his eyes, and the girl immediately removes her hands, and also understands that it seems he thought that she was secretly trying to separate him. His Majesty immediately pushes the girl under himself and asks if this means that she is mentally prepared. Well, after this, the main character pushes the emperor away and says that she doesn't want to. And in general, she does not want a relationship in which they will desire each other only physically. The blonde guy claims that he likes everything about you, lady, but she screams that she only likes his body. Then the girl also notices that while she was pushing the emperor away, she placed her hands on his chest and realizes that her hands have failed her again. Judith states that in general, she wants to get to know His Majesty a little more, so she suggests moving slowly. While the guy turns to Judith and claims that she can simply say that she doesn't want it, and that will be enough for her. After all, if she doesn't want to, then he won't do anything, after which he apologizes for getting ahead of himself. The guy extends his hand and asks if Lady Judith will allow her to hold her hand. The main character only smiles at this and notes that he can also hold her hand as much as he wants. The guy then turns to the lady and states that, frankly speaking, he has one more request for her. The main character is interested in what, after which her interlocutor suggests going on a picnic together. A little while later, the girl is heading out in a carriage and is thinking about hunting competitions. From year to year, she skipped them to avoid crossing paths with Theo, but now that such a need has disappeared, it might be worth visiting them once. The lady's father turns to her and asks if the emperor forced her to do something against her will, and although he always says this, he will repeat that if she does not want to meet with this bastard, then she does not need to force herself. Judith says he didn't do anything like that, and she's not forcing herself to date him. The girl understands that contrary to her expectations, he always listens to her opinion, after which she even claims that she and His Majesty still don't know each other well, so she wanted to spend time with him to get to know him better. So the father has nothing to worry about, and if something happens, she promises that he will be the first to know about it, and then he can give His Majesty a good scolding. The man understands that it means he worried in vain, and even if he doesn't like the emperor, his daughter made her own decision. Therefore, as her father, he must respect this choice. The man says he's confident the lady will be able to figure things out on her own, and he keeps forgetting that his daughter is already quite grown up. Judith replies that she understands perfectly well that he is worried about her. The man wonders when the girl learned to be so attentive to her father's feelings. And it seems he finally knows what his father-in-law felt when he married Layla. The man also thinks about his wife and realizes that their daughter has already grown up. A short time later, hunting competitions began at the imperial palace. This event was aimed at maintaining harmony between the imperial family and the nobility. The winner of this competition is the one who catches the most game in a day. Before the start of the competition, each woman gives one of the participants a kiss, thereby wishing him good luck and a safe return. Men hunting collect beautiful bouquets and then give them to the woman they like, confessing their feelings, so this May event secretly enjoys enormous popularity among young men and women. Judith realizes that the fact that Theo asked her to attend this event with him speaks volumes, that he wants to give her flowers, and this is something like a public announcement about it. That they are dating is why she feels a little awkward, and besides, she will have to kiss him. The girl is embarrassed and realizes that all this time she was so full of thoughts about a safe break with the emperor that something like this seems like something out of science fiction to her. In her past life, she fell into eternal sleep without ever having had a romance, so to speak. Theo should be considered her first boyfriend. This makes the girl even more embarrassed and realizes that then she becomes the very same emperor's lover she's read about so many times in novels. Judith realizes that she can't calm down, but tomorrow she will have to see Theo again. The girl also thinks that maybe she should go out into the city for a while and get some fresh air. After all, dessert is the best way to calm a raging heart. When a lady walks into a pastry shop, she's surprised to see so many chocolate buns left today. And although last time she lost her last bun to that damn brunette today, she will buy everything. She will buy it with interest, and then share it with family members, as well as with married servants. But when the main character drags a full bag of these buns, who thinks really she was too greedy? The lady also realizes that she lacks another hand to open the carriage door. She also turns around and wonders if the coachman usually stands in front of the carriage and if he really sits on the box, after which the girl turns to him and asks him to open the door. At the same moment, someone else opens the lady's door, and the girl thanks him, but he replies that he is not worth the thanks, and also states that he will go. When the main character gets into the carriage and heads home, she wonders why the carriage is shaking so much today, and whether they are really traveling on some other road. But when the carriage stops, the girl wonders if they have already arrived at the castle and wonders why they got there so quickly today. But the man who opens the carriage door claims that if the lady means that coachman, then he is now locked somewhere in a warehouse. This guy gets into the carriage and apologizes to the lady for not being the one she is looking for. Judith realizes that this is the guy who helped her open the door earlier. The girl wonders if he really intended to kidnap her from the very beginning, and then asks what his goal is, and whether he really needs money. The guy starts using magic and says that the lady doesn't need to know what their circumstances are, so let her remain silent for a while. But when the spell hits the lady, it simply dissipates. When the guy sees this, he is shocked and screams how this happened, because the spell definitely achieved its goal. Judith realizes that she doesn't know why she was kidnapped, but while this man is confused, this is her chance. The girl thinks she needs to calm down and do everything as her older brother taught her. Without a doubt, this spell is perfect for this situation. A little while ago, Ludwig asked if his sisters really needed a spell that could defeat an enemy with one blow. Judith replied that she too needed something that didn't require much effort and could be learned quickly. Ludwig replied that unless she was a genius like him, she'd never be able to use it. The main character then almost cried, saying that she didn't have even a drop of his talent, and the guy told her to wait because one way or another, she really needed to master the self-defense spell to protect herself. And she doesn't need some kind of powerful spell, but something that can quickly knock the enemy off track. That's why he claimed the lightning spell was ideal for this purpose. Judith understands that since the lightning spell moves so quickly aiming, it is difficult. The man who wanted to kidnap the girl asks what she has in her hand, and if it is really what he thinks it is. And the lady understands that when the enemy is close, you need to attack him quickly. After which the girl does just that, and when the guy falls, the lady understands that while he is immobilized, she needs to run. However, when she gets out of the carriage, she wonders where she ended up. At that very moment, someone covers her mouth. It turns out it's the guy who was going to kidnap her, and he claims he didn't expect the lady to also have magic. It even hurt him a little. The guy tells the girl not to struggle, because if she tries to use magic again, she should know that he will immediately break her wrist before she has time to do anything. But the main character thinks that she doesn't want to, and in her thoughts, she asks her dad and brothers for help. At that very moment, someone hits the guy in the face, and while he grabs it, the main character cuts it out of his hands. But when she goes further, she bumps into someone. It turns out to be the same guy who took the last bun, and he asks if the girl was hurt. Judith asks if that's a bun. The brunette just snorts. And she wonders if seeing a person is really the only thing she can say. Judith also wonders how he ended up there, and then turns to her kidnapper and says that what's more important is what happened to him there. The brunette replies that he lost consciousness, so she can leave him alone, because he will figure out what's what when he opens his eyes. Well then, he turns to the lady again and says that maybe she is unhappy, that he did not put him into eternal sleep, to which the girl replies that nothing of the sort. The main character also thanks him for his help and asks for a reward if he comes to Pellegrim Castle. The guy notices her shaking hands and asks if she can find her way home. The main character asks him what he's talking about, after which the guy tells her to follow him, because no matter how you look at it, she doesn't know where to go. The main character wonders why he suddenly became so kind, and she would like to refuse, but being there alone is unsettling. Judith says that if he tries to take her to a strange place, she will scream, but the brunette tells her not to try to catch him. If he had any plans for her, he would have already done it. The main character understands that he is right here, and she should not forget that he helped. And first of all, it can be safely said that he is not hostile towards her. A little while later, the main character thanks him for agreeing to take her to the castle, and in fact, she was a little scared, and also, to be honest, she is still angry because of what happened last time. But nevertheless, the guy helped her, so if he comes to the castle tomorrow, he will definitely receive a generous reward. However, the brunette says it's not necessary, and he can live without it. Judith asks if that's really true, and insists she can't stand being in debt for help she's received. The brunette says again that it is not necessary, and claims that if she is so grateful, then shouldn't she visit him herself and not tell him to come. Judith understands that even though he makes her angry, he says the right things, and she is speechless. Then the girl screams for him to give her his address, and she will come to him with a chest of gold coins, but the guy replies that he doesn't like that either. Judith irritably says that's fine, and in any case, the one who will regret the refusal is him. The guy at this time only says that as a reward, the girl should give him a bun from that store at their next meeting. Judith thinks about this man and realizes that he seems to really like those chocolate buns. At this time, the guy says that the lady can go further herself. Their main character understands that they have already reached the main gate. The brunette insists the Duke's daughter never expected him to find her a carriage, to take her right to the castle doors. Judith exclaims that she can walk there herself without a carriage, so he shouldn't worry and go home peacefully. The girl is also angry and thinks what an idiot she was to think that he could be a good person. Well then the lady turns around and tells him to wait, and at least say his name. However, there's no one else in the spot where the brunette stood. The girl realizes he left so quickly, and she didn't even get to say goodbye properly. Then at the castle doors, the lady met her father and his brothers, and the missing Jason was found in one of the warehouses. Theo searched the entire empire to find the culprit of the kidnapping, but his search was unsuccessful. Thanks to her serious persuasion, Jason managed to avoid being fired, but his salary was cut and she was temporarily placed under house arrest. Judith realizes that she was very ashamed in front of the coachman, whom she had dragged along with her by force. And since she is under house arrest, that means she won't be able to go to that pastry shop for some time, and she's wondering if that person will be waiting for her. At this time, the brunette heads through the basement and then approaches one animal, and also strokes him. At that moment, someone turns to Mr. Eichart and claims that it's as he ordered. He dealt with the hired thug, Dam. He says he did a great job, and that with his help, they were able to avoid unnecessary problems. The servant says that the master is flattering him, and he was only following his plan, but that woman, as he said, has the power to nullify magic. And it turns out such a force does exist. Brunette claims that, to be precise, it's not a cancellation, but an absorption. The lady can convert the enemy's attack into her own mana, and this is the power of the now extinct demonic race. The boy realizes that the rumor that the Duke and his eldest son inherited the power of a demonic clan and possessed superpowers is common knowledge, but it turns out that even his daughter inherited demonic power only from a different clan. After which, the brunette tells the servant to continue to watch this woman, and also to be careful not to be caught by the tale, to which he agrees. The guy understands that the Emperor's beloved is a woman who possesses magical powers that no one can surpass. He also says that Brother Theo has something that he so desperately desires to obtain. A little while later, the main character realizes that the weather outside is clear and there is a refreshing breeze, and she can come out into the world after such a long time. At that very moment, someone turns to Judith. When the main character turns around, she sees His Majesty standing before her. Judith realizes she could go crazy because he's incredibly handsome today. The girl wonders why he arrived so early, and why usually members of the imperial family are the last to arrive. But the blonde only kisses her hand and claims that he wanted to see her as soon as possible. The main character is embarrassed by this, and her brother and father look menacingly at these two. Judith realizes that His Majesty seems to be creating an extremely awkward situation. A little while later, the main character notices how the ladies kiss those who are going hunting. The main character turns to her brother and claims that she heard that the members of the nightly squad must leave before the other participants, so she wants him to be careful. Chiron says that, and who knows what can happen, so let the lady not go far from the camp either. At the same moment, the main character hears her father clear his throat and thinks, "Oh, these men in her house." The lady also kisses her dad on the cheek and tells him not to get too involved, to which he agrees. The main character also thinks who Theo is with, but when she looks at him, she wonders if he is alone. The girl realizes that in fact all members of Theo's family have already plunged into eternal sleep, after which the main character turns to His Majesty, and when he turns around and also turns to her, the lady shows him to be quiet. Theo approaches her and asks what happened, and the main character whispers and asks if there is anyone nearby. After the guy replies that he does, the main character says she wants to give him her blessing for good luck. The guy then realizes that the blessing is a touch of lips, which means it's a kiss. After which, he keeps telling her that she doesn't have to force herself just because everyone else does it. While the main character just stands on her toes and kisses him on the cheek, and also says that she didn't force herself. The guy then runs his finger across her lip and claims that he didn't know she had already given permission for them. The main character turns to His Majesty in surprise, while when he reaches out to her, the lady only cries out that whatever it is. And then she claims that it was about a blessing for good luck, so let him not misunderstand it. Judith realizes she merely kissed him on the cheek, but wonders why he reacted that way, considering he's standing there like a statue looking at her with a lost expression. The protagonist also says she's leaving him now. But the guy tells her to wait, after which he kisses her on the forehead and claims that he too simply blessed her with good luck. So let the lady not misunderstand him. When the Emperor leaves, he realizes he held his nerve perfectly. A short time later, the hunting competition begins, and the aristocrats ask who will win this year. One of them wonders if it is not obvious that it will be His Majesty, since this year he came with his beloved. The main character thinks that all these glances are directed at her, and it seems that everyone is interested in knowing their story. And maybe she should say she's going to the restroom and then run away. At that moment, someone approaches the girl and says he's glad to meet her. This girl claims to be the daughter of the Marquise of Lyon, named Isabella. The main character wonders if this girl really met Judith there for the first time. This lady is the villain's assistant, and in the original, Isabella likes Theo, so she wholeheartedly controlled Judith. But Judith cleverly plays on her weaknesses to set up Serena And then the fair Serena saves Isabella when she is in danger, and the girl touched by this becomes Serena's faithful friend. Judith realizes that in a word, it looks like she will stab her in the back, after which the main character greets Miss Lyon and says that she is pleased to meet her. Judith understands that there is nothing good in this relationship, so it is better to stay away from her, but the lady claims that she was looking forward to meeting the mistress, and if she does not mind, then could she send an invitation to the tea party she is organizing? Judith says, of course, and unless something serious happens, she'll definitely attend the tea party. But in her mind, the protagonist begs her not to send her. A little while later, they're sitting together, and Isabella asks the lady what treats she brought with her. She made flower tea. Judith wonders why she's sitting right next to her. At this time, Isabella hands Lady Pellegrim tea and tells her to try this flower tea, which can only be obtained in the jungles of the southwestern part of the continent. The main character thanks her, but at that very moment, the girl drops the cup on her dress. Judith is surprised by this, and the other aristocrats ask if Miss Isabella is okay, because the tea is very hot. The main character realizes that it seems like the girl just dropped the cup on purpose, and Isabella replies that everything is fine. And she thinks that Miss Judith's hand was simply too wet. The main character looks at this girl. She wonders if she's really trying to make her look guilty, but then she realizes she needs to restrain herself because she can't get involved with either the villain or her girlfriend. So she just needs to smile quietly like a lady. Well, then the main character wonders why on earth she needs to hold back, and also tells Miss Isabella that what she just did was truly childish. The lady with red hair is surprised by this and asks what she means. But at that very moment, someone addresses Judith, and when the aristocrats turn towards the person who said that name, then they immediately rise and greet the never-fading son of the Valdemar Empire. The blonde claims that he came for Judith because she promised to go on a picnic with him. The main character wonders if by picnic he meant going to a hunting competition together. And the guy replies that during the hunt, he won't have time to be with her, so it can't be called a picnic. He'd like to show her something, so he suggests they go quickly, but the main character tells His Majesty to wait, realizing that even if it were his will, it would be too tactless to simply up and leave his place. Judith apologizes to the other ladies and insists she has to leave them. One of them replies that it's okay, because they can get together just the same another time. Another one says that of course she's not worried about anything afterward, and she's going along. They also silently ask the lady to leave before His Majesty's mood worsens even more. After which the main character leaves with His Majesty, and one of the ladies says that no matter how you look at it, it seems that Lady Pellegrim and His Majesty are indeed meeting, and this is the first time she has seen His Majesty look at someone with such tenderness. Therefore, it is possible that they will soon hear news about the upcoming wedding. The main character is heading somewhere with His Majesty at this time, and thinks that the main character's buffs are impressive. After all, it seems that everyone is terribly afraid of him, and although Isabella looked pathetic, she was the first to start pestering her. Serves her right, although when she thinks about this guy being a tyrant, she herself gets scared. However, the fact that Theo is by her side is a great reassurance. At this point, the girl wonders if he can really spend time with her now since she's heard that the purpose of this competition is to establish contact between the imperial family and the nobility. The guy tells her not to worry because he is actively working on it now. Judith thinks he's at it again, and with every breath she takes, he'll come up with some new trick. She also wonders where he wanted to show her, and the guy replies that they are almost there, so let the girl look there. When the main character looks in that direction, she sees a beautiful field of flowers and asks if such a place really exists there. The blonde asks her if she likes it, and the girl replies that it's very beautiful there. Theo claims that he originally intended to pick a few buds, but since it was supposed to be a gift for her, he felt that a couple of flowers would not be enough. Judith asks if this entire flower field belongs to her. The guy smiles and says that if she wants, then not only this field, but the entire empire will belong to her. Judith is surprised by this and understands that when someone reaches the emperor class, the scale of his confession of feelings becomes a completely different level. But for her, this is a bit of a burden, and therefore the lady claims that these flowers are enough for her. The blonde then claims that his beloved doesn't know how to be greedy, and the main character understands that everything is not so, and that she simply shouldn't get involved with him. Before he starts talking about marriage again, he needs to change the subject and the lady thinks if there is something that could distract his attention, after which the girl even notices the ring on his neck. Judith realizes that this is the pendant that she tried to examine last time, and wonders if Theo is wearing it today, too, so the lady wonders if he really carries it with him every day. The lady turns to His Majesty and asks if she can look at the pendant that is currently hanging around his neck. The lady says that there is nothing special about it, and it just reminds her very much of something she lost as a child. After which the blonde agrees and also tells her to take this pendant. When the main character looks at it, she realizes that it looks exactly the same, and even the scratches are the same as on the ring that she lost as a child. But the girl wonders why he carries something like that with him, and then asks His Majesty where he found the ring. Judith realizes she doesn't want to imagine herself in something like that, but could they really have known each other before? At this time, the blonde asks if it's true that she doesn't remember anything, and she herself gave him this ring 14 years ago. Judith is then shocked to realize that she can hear the original plot crumbling at the seams. She also wonders if he's saying that they met as children and that Theo seemed very friendly to her, considering that she was meeting him for the first time, but she doesn't remember ever seeing him before. That's why the main character asks if he's sure that she personally gave him this ring, and if she really just took it from somewhere and gave it to him. To which the guy replies that no, and the lady gave him this ring and also proposed marriage. Judith is shocked, thinking that this is a disaster, and wondering what the hell she established 14 years ago, because it seems like she destroyed the original plot. But she thinks that this doesn't look like a lie, and begins to wonder how this happened. The guy claims that he believed her words and continued to wait, but apparently he was easily erased from her memory. The guy also claims that before going to bed, he always thought about her and wondered if everything was okay in her cozy home and whether she had suffered much because of him. Attending boring banquets every day, he hoped to meet her again and again and continued to look for her. But let the lady not think that he will refuse the marriage proposal just because she says that she does not remember anything, and as he already said earlier, he does not intend to let her go. The main character understands that the reason Theo still carefully kept this ring is because he was looking for her, not Serena or Judith from the original story, but one single girl whose name and status were unknown to him. The girl then thinks how she will see her happiness has no limits, and then the lady tells him to keep this ring with him until her memories return, as a sign of the fact that she proposed marriage to him, and the girl understands that although she knows that someday his affection may change, but she wants to continue believing in Theo. A little while later, the two return, and the main characters notice the servants. And also the expression on his brother's face shows that something seems to have happened. The lady also tells His Majesty to go, and she will return to the circle of young ladies, since she really is fine. The young man then apologizes and claims that he must have been absent for a long time. And yet he is the happiest man in the empire, who has an understanding beloved, so he thanks Judith and tells her to be careful, and when the time comes, let her think about him a little. After which the guy leaves, and the main character remains silent. When she returns to the lady, she realizes that while it was a bit of a chore at first, now such actions seem sweet. Well then, the main character notices someone on the side of the hunting grounds and wonders if the lady has lost her way. But then the girl realizes that this dress is familiar to her and understands that it is Isabella. The lady with red hair is thinking at this time how this girl who doesn't understand anything can interfere. And yet she walks alongside His Majesty, with her head held high, after which the girl even kicks a pebble and thinks about how everything irritates her. But the pebble hits one of the monsters, and it starts to roar. Isabella wonders what that sound was. But when he turns around, he sees in front of him a terrible monster with 3 heads. The lady immediately starts screaming. At that very moment, the main character screams for Miss Isabella to step aside. The girl uses her powers, after which the monster begins to burn. Isabella only looks at it in horror. After the monster is reduced to a charred body, the main character approaches Isabella and asks if she is okay. The girl turned around and asked if it was Lady Pellegrim. Judith realized she had cast the spell in haste, unsure of its target, but Isabella was in danger. And it seems that the special training conducted by Brother Ludwig was not in vain. The girl also turns to the lady and asks if she can get up, because since he was knocked out, she needs to run quickly. But at that very moment, other monsters come there, and the girl wonders if he was not alone. Judith asks where the hell the chimeras came from. She also realizes there's no way they can escape together. After which, the main character turns to Miss Isabella and asks if she is able to escape because she will use magic and draw all the attention of the monsters to herself, and she must run away from there at her signal. The red-haired lady then screams out, "Is Judith telling her to leave alone?" After which she says that without a doubt, the monsters will follow her. The main character says that she knows that the lady is scared, but now is not the time to panic. She also notices something strange and wonders if Miss Isabella is hiding something from her. The lady with red hair replies that she simply thought that if she were in danger, His Majesty the Emperor would come to her aid. That's why she deliberately spilled tea, which has a hallucinogenic effect on wild animals, on her dress. But she swears she knows nothing about these monsters. The main character then screams, asking if the lady is definitely not an idiot. And how could one even think of taking such a dangerous step when something could go wrong at any moment? At that moment, the remaining monsters approach them, and the main character realizes that now is not the time to scold the girl. After which she even begs for forgiveness and tears off a piece of her dress. She claims that if she has this piece of fabric, the chimeras will not follow Miss Isabella. And as soon as she gets out of there, safely, let her immediately call the knights. But the lady with red hair wonders what about Lady Pellegrim if she has this fabric. After this, the main character only smiles and tells Isabella not to worry, because after all, her teacher was her brother Ludwig, who is the current ruler of the Magic Tower. The girl also understands that although only her brother has a real talent for magic, at that moment, the monsters approach, and the main character screams for the lady to run away quickly, to which she agrees. At this time, the main character begins to use barrier magic, and His Majesty begins to sense something is wrong. A little while later, the girl is already thinking how much time has passed since Isabella left. She also understands that the protective barrier uses a lot of mana, and she won't be able to last long there. Judith wonders if this girl will really call the knights, and what if she simply abandons her to eternal sleep? What if her mana runs out before anyone comes to her aid? And the main character wonders if she'll really fall into eternal sleep like this. Until now, the only thing that had troubled her was the ending, as in the original work, where she falls into eternal sleep at the hands of the Emperor. But she never once imagined that her life could end like this. Judith wonders if Theo will remember her if she's gone. Or like in the original, he will meet Serena and live happily ever after with her. The girl realizes that she no longer has the mana to maintain the barrier, after which she weakens, but she understands that she does not want to plunge into eternal sleep in such a place. When the monster is about to approach her, suddenly 3 arrows fly in front of him, and someone addresses Judith. When the main character turns around, she wonders if it's Theo. The guy is casting some kind of spell. After which, a sword appears in his hands, and he cuts down the monsters with it. The main character wonders if this is the power of the imperial family that Theo possesses. The boy turns to Judith and asks if she's hurt. The main character addresses His Majesty. But the guy just hugs her and says that she should always think about herself first, and then about others. And does she know how worried he gets every time she does this? Judith notices the slight tremor in his fingertips, and the way his voice seems ready to break at any moment. His arms tighten around her, making it clear that he was more afraid than she was. The main character apologizes for making him worry, and understands that Theo came to her, but not to plunge her into eternal sleep, but to save her. A short time later, the two return. The young lady's father and brother immediately run up to her. The Duke thanks His Majesty for returning his daughter safe and sound. The blonde insists there are no apparent injuries, but she must be very frightened, so he will order the imperial physician to examine her. The guy also turns to the lady's brother, and when he responds, the blonde tells the guy to take the knights and find out how the chimeras got there. A short time later, the Emperor tells him to report that the man claims that traces of the chimeras have been discovered, indicating that they have entered this area from areas outside the hunting grounds. And it seems that the chimera running nearby was attracted there by the scent of the Raxus flower. Following the investigation, the flower was discovered in the tea carried by Lady Lyon. Isabella is only frightened by this, and the blonde man claims that the Raxus flowers have a hallucinogenic effect that drives monsters and wild animals crazy. And the lady prepared tea for their dangerous flower and brought it there. The Emperor also turned to the Marquis and asked if he knew anything about it. The man replies that he is very sorry, but he believes that someone was plotting to harm the daughter of his humble servant, and isn't she the one who was attacked by the monsters? If His Majesty grants permission, he would like to put his family's honor at stake and personally find out who was behind the attempt to harm his daughter. After this, the blonde is silent, and then the main character takes his hand as if asking him not to be angry. After which, the young man asserts that he gives his permission. A short time later, the Marquis is alone with his daughter. He wonders if this is her prank, and when the lady tries to justify herself, then her father cries out that even a joke has its limits, and he wonders when the girl will grow up. Her childish behavior almost ruined her younger brother's future, and not only is she unable to help, but she is also doing everything she can to fall into the Emperor's disfavor. So he will take care of it, and she just has to keep her mouth shut, to which the girl agrees. And when the man leaves the tent, he says what a stupid girl she is. Isabella is trying not to cry at this time, but at that very moment, someone else enters the tent. It turns out to be Judith, and she asks if the lady would mind talking a little about what happened earlier. The lady with red hair wonders why Lady Palirum came there, and whether she is really going to interrogate her. Well, the main character is just wondering if she is okay and if she is hurt. Isabella asks what she means, and Judith replies that she heard from her brother that the lady's clothes and shoes were in terrible condition. She ran with all her might to call the knights, so the main character thanks her and claims that, thanks to her, she managed to survive. The red-haired lady doesn't even know what to say to this and asserts, as for her, she is also very grateful to the lady. Judith then hears someone calling her and claiming that she is being called, so she is forced to leave Miss Isabella. But the girl also claims that today was a hard day, so let the miss go home and have a good rest, and let him never again start something so dangerous that the girl agrees to. A little while later, the Duke tells his daughter that it is already getting dark, so he suggests returning home. But at the same moment, the Emperor tells the lady to wait and takes her hand. He claims he will accompany her to the carriage. When he escorts the lady to the carriage, the two say goodbye. The blonde wishes her good night and also tells her to have sweet dreams. But when the carriage leaves, he stops smiling and turns around to head towards the tents. Theo approaches the other knights and asks if they have found out exactly where the chimeras infiltrated. One of them tells His Majesty that they found traces of experiments with black magic near the northwestern border of the hunting grounds, and the chimeras seem to have escaped from there. The guy asks what about the magicians who conducted the experiments, and his interlocutor replies that it looks like they left that place a long time ago. There is a suggestion that after they left, some hungry chimeras went down in search of food. All the remaining chimeras were destroyed, and their bodies were burned. The blonde says it's clear, and they did an excellent job. Theo also considers experimenting with black magic, and then turns to Chiron. And he asks Togo to try to find a cart. The young lady's brother asks if that's really the case. His Majesty assumes the second prince is alive. The boy replies that indeed, 5 years ago, it was confirmed that he was heading to the Principality of Arsel through western Ilkist. Recently, there have been many reports of evidence of black magic experiments being discovered. With such a scale, there must certainly be someone who will lead all these magicians, and if he has again begun to gather supporters around him, then he cannot sit idly by. The blonde understands that until the very end, he hoped that his brother had run away to live peacefully, forgetting about the imperial family. And Chiron wonders what His Majesty plans to do if it's confirmed that the second prince is behind this. Meanwhile, the boy recalls how the brunette with tears in his eyes and covered in red liquid begged his brother to put him into eternal sleep. So now Theo claims that this time he will have to do just that. At this moment, the main character is in bed, and her father is watching her. At that moment, the image of a lady bursts into the room, and he asks his father if everything is okay with Judith, and also asks him to explain how monsters ended up at the Imperial House's hunting competition. At this time, the man shows the guy to be quieter, because they can disturb Judith's sleep, so he suggests talking outside. When they sit down for a cup of tea, the Duke states that he thinks it is now better to remove the seal placed on Judith and asks what the guy thinks about this. The boy asks why his father suddenly started talking about this, and the man replies that he has been thinking about it since Judith was kidnapped last time. This happened before they could find a new bodyguard for their baby, but at the same time, no matter how careful they are, you never know what can happen. Therefore, she must have the strength so that the lady can protect herself, and he does not want to relive what happened 14 years ago. The guy remembers that on that day, Judith, who had been missing for half a day, was found unconscious. When the magician came to their house, he told his lordship that this child had inherited the abilities of another demonic clan, and it seemed that she was absorbing the magic touching the body and turning her into her own mother. The man asked if he was talking about mana absorption, and whether that was why his daughter was suffering so much, The mage replied that yes, she had absorbed too much mana, which had caused her power surges. That's why Ludwig was attacked, and he has the feeling the lady perceives everything except her own mana as an enemy. The guy then turned to his teacher and asked if this meant that someone had attacked her since the girl had absorbed a large amount of mana. The man replies that it is likely so, and it was a spell capable of plunging a person into eternal sleep. What shocked the two was that the teacher insisted that in any case, leaving her in such a state was dangerous. Miss Judith's mana needed to be sealed until she was able to control it herself. The Duke inquired whether there would be any problems with his daughter's body if they did so. The teacher replied that of course not, and that she would be able to use magic even if only to a small extent. However, the memories of the moment her power surged would also be sealed, so they would not be able to know who attacked her or why. They decided to seal Judith's mana. A short time later, the protagonist saw her brother's wounds and asked if he was in much pain, and also how he got hurt Judith when she came to really didn't remember anything. The boy claimed he'd been too arrogant, so the teacher had beaten him up. The bruises and scrapes would heal quickly, so the lady shouldn't worry too much. All family members decided to keep the events of that day a secret. The main character offered to blow on her brother's wounds so they wouldn't hurt. The choice to save him, and all secretly, was made to protect Judith. Now, Ludwig claims that, of course, if the seal is removed, Judith will be able to use more powerful magic, but he is not sure that she will be able to cope with it on her own. Another brother comes into the room and states that he completely agrees with his father. The man says that he has finally arrived, to which he replies that he has, and claims that Judith was on the verge of falling into eternal sleep today. And if His Majesty had been late, even for a second, she would have been torn apart by chimeras. They say that she took this step to save the Marquis's daughter, and this child cannot sit idly by when others are in danger. There is no guarantee that nothing like this will ever happen again, after which Ludwig agrees. And he claims he'll remove the seal from his sister. A short time later, the boy is already using his magic, and the girl's mana is released, waking up the next day. The main character wonders if the heaviness in her body is due to using magic to its limits. She also realizes that there is some noise outside and does not understand what happened. But when she opens the door, she sees His Majesty asking if Judith slept well. The main character is shocked, and the guy immediately puts his hand on her face and asks if she got enough sleep. And also, does anything hurt? The girl is wondering why the guy is there and whether she's still asleep. One of the brothers wonders if the lady was able to get a good night's sleep when His Majesty raised such a fuss. The blonde insists that if the two of them hadn't tried to stop him, there wouldn't have been any noise. Ludwig immediately exclaims, wondering where he ever saw an older brother who would allow a stranger into his sleeping little sister's room. Well, the blonde replies that he is not an outsider, and this is clearly too much, because if he marries Judith, then will they all become his family? The main character, looking at the faces of her brothers, understands that a conflict is brewing, after which she turns to His Majesty and asserts that it is not proper for them to talk while standing, so first let him come in and sit down in the room. And let the brothers go to the dining room first, because as soon as they finish, they can immediately join them. Chiron says that they must go down as soon as possible, and Ludwig screams that if something happens, then let the lady call immediately and also kick this guy where he pointed. When they finally leave, the main character realizes that every time Theo arrives, there's such a commotion ensues. People turn to His Majesty and tell him not to come for her again. The guy asks why and claims that he came because he was worried. Well, the main character says that if he's worried about her, she'll take more nights with her, and by coming there like this, he's wasting a lot of time, and he must also be very busy dealing with matters of state. Well then, the girl notices that he is smiling and asks what happened. The guy replies that he simply finds her face when the lady just woke up incredibly beautiful. Judith realizes that if she thinks about it, she hasn't even washed her face yet, which makes her feel even more embarrassed. Theo claims that he said that her face is beautiful and wonders why she covers it with her hands. The main character replies that she feels awkward standing in front of him with an unwashed face, so she would quickly get ready and go downstairs, and he would wait for her in the dining room. But at that very moment, the lady feels something strange, and the blonde immediately cries out whether she is okay. Judith replies that everything is fine, she is just a little dizzy, because she used too much mana yesterday, so her stamina is failing. At the same moment, the guy lifts her up in his arms and then screams for the jacket to be prepared. After all, they are now heading with Judith to the Imperial Palace, and she must be examined by a doctor as soon as possible. The main character screams for His Highness to wait, and the servants watching as they leave the room are surprised. Judith realizes she's about to burn with shame. Meanwhile, the blonde asks if the carriage is ready. But at that very moment, someone runs after His Majesty and tells him to stop, and also asks what he is doing. The guy replies that Judith said that she was feeling dizzy and that she seemed to be overtired because of what happened yesterday, so he plans to take her to the imperial palace and show her to the court physician, and also ensure that she gets proper rest. But the Duke cries out that it would be much better for her to stay in the mansion, and then the blonde replies that he will take responsibility for Judith and take care of her so that everyone can calmly do their work. And for his information, this is the Emperor's order. After which the boy steps into the carriage and slams the door. And then he leaves altogether. But then Ludwig remembers something. The man asks his son what happened. And he replies that he forgot to tell you that he unsealed Judith's magic a few hours later in the imperial palace. The blonde sits with papers, after which he decides to look at the main character. Judith then tells His Majesty to stop sneaking glances at her and to concentrate on his work. After this, the guy wants to say something else, but the main character says that she is really fine, and the doctor said that she is absolutely healthy. The Emperor then agrees and immerses himself in his work. Again, Judith realizes that even though she told Theo she was fine, she was fine. But the lady still does not understand why she feels such heaviness throughout her body and wants to sleep. And maybe what happened yesterday was very stressful for her. A little while later, the blonde man signs one of the documents and realizes he's finally finished. He immediately rises from his seat and joyfully addresses Judith, but sees that the girl has already fallen asleep. The guy wonders if she fell asleep while waiting for him, and that recently, she has been constantly nodding off. Today, her condition is clearly not the same as usual, and she did not touch food during lunch, saying that she had no appetite. No serious illness was found, but her stamina is at 0, and the lady feels heaviness throughout her body, and she also has no appetite. And so the guy wonders what happened. Judith said everything was fine because she was taking birth control, but what if something happened? It turns out she's carrying his child. A little while later, the main character opens her eyes. The blonde man, who is working right next to her, turns to the lady and asks if she woke up the same way she feels. Judith wonders why she is in bed and whether Theo moved her there while she was sleeping. The girl also apologizes to His Majesty and asks if she dozed off again, but he just needed to wake her up and not wait for her to wake up. The guy claims that everything is fine and she can continue to lie down and that she does not need to overexert herself, and it is better for the lady to relax because during this period she should be especially careful. The main character asks what he's talking about, and the blonde just apologizes and claims that he should have been more careful and not put even the slightest strain on her body. His words may confuse her, but he will do his best to ensure that she does not feel anxious in the future. The girl then tells His Majesty to listen and asks what he is even talking about. The guy just tells the girl not to be surprised, because now, when the guy is about to say that she is carrying their baby in her heart, at that very moment, the girl's brother screams from behind the door. He cries out to His Majesty and claims that he knows perfectly well that he is inside, but the clock has already struck again long ago, so he came for his sister. A little while later, the guy enters the room and addresses his sister. He asks if everything was okay with her body today and if she was still suffering from dizziness. The young man also insists that she should be especially careful about her body now. The Emperor understands that after the girl's brother's words, he is finally convinced that Judith is pregnant. Ludwig at this time also claims that he will then take Judith and leave, and the main character understands that they are about to have another squabble. But at that very moment, the blonde man says, "Okay, let the guy keep a close eye on Judith and get her home quickly," and the main character shocked wonders what happened to the Emperor. And the blonde just tells the girl to have a good rest as soon as she gets home, and he will answer and sort it out completely. So she needn't worry about anything. The heroine agrees and says goodbye to His Majesty. When the blonde is left alone in the room, he sits down at the table and realizes that, as expected, he needs to organize a wedding ceremony as soon as possible. At this time, the main character is heading out with her brother, and he asks how the girl is feeling and whether she has been tired or nauseous during the day. The girl replies that except for the fact that she constantly feels sleepy, everything is fine. Ludwig says he was planning to tell the lady this morning, but this has completely thrown her off balance. Judith asks what he was planning to tell her. The guy simply suggests they sit down somewhere, and he'll tell her everything a little while later. They're already sitting down on a bench. And the lady's brother tells her to give him her hand for a second. The main character of the attack does so. And the young man claims that now she will feel a slight malaise, after which the main character feels. Her stomach was so twisted that she was about to vomit, and the girl was wondering what it was. The boy then says that it's excellent and that he's finished. He also apologizes for making her feel uncomfortable, but he's cast a healing spell, so her condition will improve soon. Judith notices that indeed there's no trace of the former heaviness left in her body, but she wonders what her words about a healing spell mean and whether she really has some kind of ailment. The guy replies that he doesn't even know where to start, and the girl probably knows that her ability is to nullify magic, but in reality, her ability is to absorb magic touching her body and turn it into her own mana. The more she is attacked, the stronger the ladies become, but at the same time, it is a dangerous ability that can cause a surge of magical power, so they had to seal her talent until recently. However, since the lady was already quite grown up, he considered that she could fully take responsibility for this power, and therefore removed the seal last night. It was because of this that the lady had been feeling unwell all day today, and the mana flow had become unstable, and had also affected her body. The main character wonders what he is carrying, and why there are so many things that were not in the original work. Judith claims that it is not that she doubts his words, but how is it possible that she is completely unaware of something so significant? And the guy claims that, frankly speaking, along with the mana, they sealed her memories of that day, and that's why she still can't remember what happened when she went missing at the age of 6. Judith realizes they were probably at the same age they first met His Majesty, wondering what the hell happened then. It seems the original plot has changed significantly since that day, but she has no information. At this time, the lady's brother suggests returning home, and it's already late, so the father is probably going crazy. But at the same moment, someone else turns to Mr. Ludwig and says that an urgent message has arrived from the magic tower, so he urgently needs to go there. The guy replies that he has to take his sister home, so he should tell them to wait. The main character tells her brother that she's perfectly fine, so he can go quickly. When he starts to object, the girl claims that she now has more bodyguards than before and will go home immediately, so there's no need to worry. The young man then agrees to tell her that under no circumstances should she turn away from the path. A little while later, the main character walks through the square and realizes that there are so many people there, and also wonders if there is a fair there. She would really like to see it, but since she gave her word to her brother, she must control herself. Well, by the way, she should at least once look into the pastry shop because she hasn't seen that guy since they parted that evening. And what if he thinks that she simply cheated him out of the reward he was recently due? At that very moment, the main character sees some brunette and wonders if this is really that person. Judith immediately screams for the carriage to stop, and when the servant asks the mistress what happened, the girl understands that if she does not hurry, she will miss him. The lady also screams that she will be back quickly, so let them wait. One of the knights claims that it is dangerous to go somewhere alone, but at that very moment, the girl disappears from sight. At this time, the main character follows the guy and screams at him to wait. Judith thinks that she doesn't know his name, so she can't even call him normally, after which the lady grabs him by the cloak and claims that she told him to stand. Judith realizes that something has finally gotten to him, but she wonders why this guy is walking so fast. However, when the brunette turns to the lady and asks if something really happened, the girl is shocked and wonders who it is. She immediately lets the guy go and apologizes, and also claims that she confused him with someone else. Judith understands that this is a completely different person, and the empire of attacks is huge, so they simply could not have accidentally collided like that. If her brother finds out that she got out of the carriage, he will start grumbling again, and before the bodyguard starts to worry, he needs to go back. But at that very moment, someone bumps into the lady, and as he passes, he tells his sister not to stand there in the middle of the street, rooted to the spot. The main character apologizes, but at that very moment, someone tells the guy to wait. And when he is grabbed by the hand, the young man asks what he is saying and asks to be let go quickly. But this man says that he feels like he needs to give something back to this woman. And when the main character looks at it, she realizes it's a bun. Judith asks why it's there. The young man is still trying to escape from the guy's hands, but the brunette only twists him. And he also says that the street is so crowded, if a noble lady in an expensive dress walks alone without an escort, then she becomes an ideal target for petty thieves, and then the bracelet falls out of the guy's hands. The main character says that this is her bracelet, and also asks when they managed to steal it. Icard only says that the boy dared to touch the belongings of a representative of the nobility without a shred of fear and asks if he knows what punishment awaits him for theft in the empire. But the main character tells him to wait and claims that she is the victim in this incident. Therefore, she thinks that it would be better for her to make a decision about his punishment. The brunette then says that the lady can do as she wishes, and a little later, the main character claims that stealing is a bad thing. She also asks if the guy knows that even captured children are punished. The young man replies that he knows, but he still needs the money. The protagonist asks why. And the guy replies that his younger sister is sick, so he needs money for medicine, but he does not have the opportunity to find such a large amount of money right now. The main character asks if he is serious, and then says that it is okay, and she will also pay for the medicine instead of him. The young man asks if this is true, but the girl tells him to promise in return that he will never steal again, and asks if he is ready to give his word, to which the young man replies that he does. When he leaves, he thanks his sister and claims that he will never forget the help she gave him. The main character tells him to take good care of his little sister and never forget his promise. The brunette claims he was curious about what she was going to do, asking him to hand over to her the decision-making powers regarding his punishment. He also wonders if the lady really believed that what he said was true, since it was obvious that it was a pre-planned lie just for such a case. Judith asks if he is worried that she might have been deceived, and it turns out that he knows how to be caring. She also says that he is right, because she cannot know for sure whether this guy lied to her or his wife, but for her it was not important. Even if he lied, she would be at peace because there was no sick child, and so since he had her money, at least today, he would not touch other people's things. The lady also wondered if he had seen the child's clothes, as they were very worn, so it was most likely true that he had a hard life. Of course, stealing is bad, but she believes that the adults who created this unjust world also bear responsibility for such actions. It may seem hypocritical, but it's all she can do right now. And frankly, she wants to believe that the kid was telling the truth. After that, the brunette wants to say something. But at that very moment, someone turns to Mrs. Judith and cries out that she was in such a place, and therefore suggests that they quickly go back. The main character realizes that she has completely forgotten about her bodyguard and that she is in serious trouble. The guy asks the woman how she could just up and leave, and asks if she knows how long he's been looking for her. The girl apologizes, claiming she saw a familiar face, and decided to hurry. The bodyguards ask if she was with someone. The girl replies that this person had helped her a lot in the past, but when the main character turns around, she realizes that there is no one there anymore. The girl claims that he was just there, and understands that this guy disappeared again before she had time to thank him for his help, and they can see him again. The guy understands that she has more security now, and it will be more difficult to get close to the Duke's daughter. A little while ago, one of the servants told the master that as he had ordered preparations for the test to duplicate the ability of the Duke's daughter had been completed. All that remains is to extract her red liquid, so the guy asks how they can do that. The brunette replied that he's the only one who knows her personally, so she'll be less wary when she sees him. To which the red-haired guy agrees and states that then they are completely counting on him. The dragon's abilities cloned from the emperor have side effects, and to gain full power, the power of the Duke's daughter is required. But the guy wonders why he's helping her, instead of taking what he needs. After that, he starts to feel pain. The young man wonders why he had an attack at just that moment. He also begins to hear someone's voice. This woman claims that she has said more than once that no one can love such an imperfect body. The same applies to that woman, although she treats him as one of her own kind. But will she still behave this way, even when she finds out who he really is? She also tells the guy to listen to his mother, because she's the only one who thinks about him. After which, the illusion goes away, and the guy realizes that the ghost with senile dementia is too talkative. The cycle of attacks becomes shorter, and as expected, he must obtain the ability of the Duke's daughter, and to do this, he needs to get her red liquid. After which, the boy remains silent, thinking how tired he is. Meanwhile, in the northern part of the empire, in the Marquise's castle, the maid approaches her ladyship and states that Mr. Lloyd requests an audience, and also says that there is an urgent message for her from the imperial palace. The woman says, "Let him come in," and when the man comes in, he apologizes to her ladyship because he showed up to see her in the middle of the night. The woman says they can dispense with greetings, since she was told he had an urgent message from the imperial palace. The man replies that yes, and His Imperial Majesty personally sent it to the lady, so he tried to deliver the message as quickly as possible. The woman then tells him to read it. The man reads that it is a request for the Marchioness Spencer. The rulers of the Spencer estates, Vadim inquired if spring had yet arrived in the north and whether he needed a couple of cherry trees in bloom for his wedding ceremony. And if there are any trees that haven't bloomed yet, let the lady send them right away. The woman asks if this is really necessary for this boy's wedding. She also wonders if the wedding preparations really began a long time ago. The guy replies that no, and as far as he knows, he wasn't interested in women, and it was difficult for his closest associates to even hint about marriage. But when he is about to continue, the Marquise asks if it is because of his suddenly appeared lover. He began to hastily prepare for the wedding ceremony and even sent her such an absurd request. After which, the woman says that Lloyd currently has no more than 10 cherry trees to choose from. She needs to see with her own eyes what kind of woman has captured this boy's heart. A little while later, someone asks if the Marquise is planning to hold a banquet in the capital. The blonde replies that yes, he doesn't know what she's planning, but only girls were invited, and she should also receive an invitation, so the lady shouldn't even open it and just refuse. The protagonist responds to this with silence and thoughts of Elsette Spencer. She understands that she is the current Marchioness. She was also Theo's only cousin on his mother's side. The Marquise's family was accused of aiding Theo's mother and participating in the poisoning of Icart. All family members, with the exception of Elsette, who was 10 years old at the time, and her newborn nephew, were put into eternal sleep, and everyone thought that the family was now finished. But Elsette thought differently, and having joined the knights, she and Theo went through all possible battles, earning great glory. Thanks to this, he became a close associate of the Emperor, gaining a position that no one could surpass within the Empire. This character was respected by the original's main character, and Elsette also considered the villainous Judith an eyesore. So she wondered why she suddenly invited her to the banquet, and she must have heard rumors that she and Theo were dating. She also decided to check out what kind of fruit she was. The blonde man claims that if it's hard for her to refuse, then he can do it for her, and now her health is more important. But the main character tells him to wait, because the Marquise herself is inviting her. And besides, she understands that Elsette is like Theo's closest ally, and even if they avoid meeting now, they will definitely meet in the future. The main character also turns to His Majesty and claims that he has recently continued to worry about her health, and she asks if her brother really told him something, because if that is the case, then now she is completely fine. The blonde man says it's okay. She still has 9 months of tremendous hardship ahead of her, so she shouldn't overexert herself. The main character asks what he's talking about, and also asks if His Majesty is really talking about the seal that was placed on her mana. The guy asks what she is saying, because he meant their child, whom she is now carrying under her heart. The main character is shocked by this and screams, asking what he's talking about. She realizes she never imagined the guy would misunderstand the situation so much, but she kept wondering why he had been acting so suspiciously for several days now. And on top of all that, he kept asking embarrassing questions. Judith wondered which child he was talking about. After all, she has no idea how Theo will behave when Serena appears on the horizon, and now these conversations seem to her like something too far from reality. A little while later, the main character returns to her home, and the butler brings her a letter. He also claims that while the lady was in the imperial palace, she received an invitation from the Marquise. Judith realizes that what was meant to be has arrived. At this point, her brother Ludwig approaches her and asks if this is the banquet the Spencer family is hosting, and whether it would be best to decline. The guy claims that the Marquise has a very strained relationship with his brother Chiron. The main character asks if he knows the Marquise, and the guy replies that to say that he knows her is to say nothing. The two dated about 10 years ago, and the main character wonders what he's talking about. The girl asks if this is such an old story, and wonders why she didn't know anything about it, to which the guy replies that they didn't even last a week. He simply teased his brother jokingly and broke up with the Marquise the very next day. The young man told Judith that her brother Chiron was very busy, so she could only play with him. Now the guy tells the lady not to stare at him like that, because he also didn't know that his brother would just pull such a stunt. But in any case, after this, as soon as she sees her brother, a piercing wind begins to blow, and who knows, she might decide to take out her anger on the girl, so let her be careful. After this, the main character realizes that she has become even more anxious, and no matter how you look at it, she is the reason for the breakup. The girl also wonders whether this installation was added intentionally because Judith is a villain, but she had almost fallen into eternal sleep during the incident with Isabella. Lueye wonders if she will have to go through something like this again, but then she thinks that she needs to wait. After all now, when she thinks about it, she gets terribly angry. After all, she personally did nothing wrong before the Marquise and is not to blame for it. What ended up in Judith's body? And not that Theo and Chiron are distinguished by some extraordinary qualities. The girl also wonders if it's fair to be hated simply because you're supposed to be a villain a few days later, the Marquise's residence. The main character realizes that, as expected, she is a little nervous about going to the banquet without her brothers. This time, every action she takes will result in an assessment of the Pellegrim family, although she could hide her face as during the masquerade ball. Well, then, the lady understands that she shouldn't be a coward, because after all, she's someone who lived in this world for 20 years as a duke's daughter. At the same moment, someone reports that Lady Judith from the ducal Pellegrim family has arrived. The girl says that it is a great honor for her to meet her ladyship, and she thanks the lady for inviting her to this event. The woman claims that this is a banquet, where partners are not allowed, so she thought that the lady would not come. She also thanks the girl for responding to her invitation. And the main character smiles and understands that she knows little about Elset since almost nothing was said about her in the original. And now when she sees it in person, this lady dazzles with her magnificence. And we're talking about a girl who doesn't even wear a dress to a banquet, so she especially doesn't want to be hated by her. The main character seems to be asking her to call her sister. Meanwhile, the blonde wonders why the lady has been staring at her so intently lately. And is she really surprised that she didn't wear a dress, to which the main character replies that no, and her outfit suits the lady very well. She thinks she's gorgeous, but when the woman looks at the lady and remains silent, the protagonist realizes she's been thinking about something completely different and has accidentally misspoke. The blonde also turns to the lady and asks what kind of box is in the hands of the maid standing behind her. Judith replies that this is her small gift for my lady, and she heard that she loves sweets, so she personally prepared it for her. She just doesn't know if she'll like her gift. The woman looking at the cookies says how cute they are, and she sees that she made them with all her heart. Well, she still wonders why the lady is giving her these cookies. The main character is surprised by this, and she wonders if she chose the wrong gift. The girl thought it would be nice to make a good impression at the first meeting. But it turns out that changing her relationship with Judith isn't so easy. The protagonist claims she simply wanted to get along with her. But at that very moment, the woman starts laughing and apologizes, and also says that the lady doesn't need to be so afraid of her. She heard that Theo was crazy about some lady, and decided to see who this sly fox was, but ended up running into a cute rabbit. The main character asks what she's talking about. After which, the woman apologizes for her rude behavior and claims that she did not invite the lady to the banquet to torture her, but simply wanted to convince her of the kind of person Theo fell in love with. And although there was no need to show any malice, the girl was so nervous that she unconsciously wanted to tease her. The woman also wonders why she was nervous, and whether her image is really that frightening. Judith claims that her words may be a bit presumptuous, but she was nervous because she learned that the lady had a very strained relationship with her brother Chiron. The woman replies that of course it is true that she hates this idiot, but what her brother did and her attitude towards the lady are two different things. She doesn't treat others unfairly because of something like that. The main character is surprised by this. The woman claims that their conversation has dragged on a bit and that her crazy brothers are not there today, so the lady asks her to enjoy the banquet as much as her heart desires, to which the main character agrees. And when the Marquise leaves, the girl realizes that Elset is truly an amazing person. She also wonders if her brother is in his right mind and how he could reject such a girl. At that moment, someone turns to Lady Judith and says that they have met again. When the main character turns to this lady, she realizes they've seen each other at the hunting competition. Judith says she's glad to see Miss Renee again. And this is their first meeting since the hunting competition. The girl then asks if the lady has seen Miss Isabella, yet as it seems, she was recently looking for her. The main character replies that no, and she hasn't seen her yet, but she wonders why Isabella was looking for her. At this time, someone else turns to Lady Pellegrim and says that if she doesn't mind, they would like to greet her. The main character then agrees, and the lady who approaches says that she is pleased to meet her. Her name is Sienna, and she is the eldest daughter of the Earl, and this is her mother. The woman also greets Lady Judith, and the main character tells the Countess that she is pleased to meet her. The woman says that when she heard Miss would be attending the banquet, she was eager to greet her Judith, meanwhile notices the girl behind her and wonders why they didn't introduce her. When this lady notices that the main character is looking at her, she just nods. Judith thinks that she has either a shy nature or something else, but for some reason, this situation does not give her peace. At this time, one of the ladies asks if they heard that the Marchioness organized a banquet to find a daughter-in-law for the House of Spencer, and Milady Elzeth said that she will pass the title of Marquise to her only nephew. One of the ladies asks if she could become a Marquise if she succeeds. The protagonist, feeling tired, realizes she was wondering what it would be like to host a banquet attended only by women. Well, all they talk about is marriage, and even if it's a fantasy world, it's still based in the medieval era, so this kind of conversation is probably inevitable. One of the people turns to the girl, says she hasn't said a word, and asks if she's feeling unwell. Judith replies that she hasn't been to a banquet in a while and feels a little tired. The girl also changes, but also asks if she can leave first, to which they agree. After the main character goes outside, she realizes that she has finally managed to escape and needs to quickly return home and go to bed. But when the main character goes further, she sees a girl who was not introduced before. Judith wonders if that wasn't the Earl of Gorton's youngest daughter, standing behind her mother and older sister. The protagonist wonders why she's alone and where the other noblewomen are. But when you look in another direction, you understand that there is a complete and everything becomes clear. This girl is an outcast in her own family, just like she was in her past life. So the main character approaches this girl and asks if she minds if she sits next to her. The girl asks if this is Lady Pellegrim, after which she says that of course she is, and asks her to sit down. Judith thanks her, but claims that, come to think of it, she still doesn't know the lady's name, so she asks if she could find out hers. Her interlocutor replies that her name is Leona, and the main character says that she is pleased to meet Miss, because ever since she saw her, she wanted to talk to her. Leona replies that she too would like to share a conversation with Miss Judith, but at that moment, someone else addresses Miss Judith, and he says, "Here she is." When the main character dodges, she realizes it's Miss Isabella. The lady with red hair wonders why the lady is there and asks if she knows how long she has been looking for her. The girl even sees someone else next to the main character and wonders who it is. Judith says they should introduce themselves as this is Miss Leona from the Earl of Gorton's family. The girl rises from her seat and greets Miss Isabella, claiming they've met at another banquet, so she asks if the lady remembers her. The girl replies that she is not sure, although it seems like they have met. The main character thinks she knows the lady doesn't have good feelings toward her, but she still doesn't understand why Isabella is so harsh with Leona. Meanwhile, the red-haired lady says that what's more important is whether Miss Judith knows what it is. After which, she holds out the basket, and the main character asks if this is chocolate. The girl replies, "The States don't just have chocolate, but chocolate candies with whiskey." And she didn't bring them personally for the lady, but she can give a couple if she wants to try. After all, she ended up in her debt last time. The main character then thanks Miss Isabella and asks if she doesn't mind if Miss Leona tries these candies too. A little while later, the Marquise tries the main character's cookies, and he asks if these cookies were really made by her personally. At this point, the maid turns to her ladyship, and he claims that His Majesty has arrived and that he is also waiting for her in the guest room, so she asks how the lady will proceed, to which the woman replies that she will go to him herself. A little while later, she comes to the guy and claims that it seems she did not invite him to the banquet. The blonde man asks what she's eating, and if it's really cookies. The Marquise says he has a diamond eye and asks if they're cute. Although one ear is already missing, the guy replies that not really, and the woman asks if he is serious. But these cookies were baked by Judith, which is why the blonde is shocked and then takes the cookies from the Marquise's hands. And he also claims that he meant that he doesn't particularly like the way she holds him in her arms. Well, he still wonders why Judith gave him these cookies, and the woman replies that she said she wanted to get along with her. The guy realizes that the cookie, which he still couldn't get, ended up in her hands and wonders where Judith is now. At this time, one of the ladies cries out, "Isn't this too unfair?" After all, she is the daughter of the Marquis of Lyon, but her father only communicates with her younger brother as if he were his own child. He doesn't care about her opinion. He thinks that the main thing is to marry her off successfully, but she has no intention of walking down the aisle at all. Leona replies that her family doesn't even care about that, because making the right connections and getting a marriage proposal is all her older sister's share. Although she is of course not interested in marriage either, It is a little sad that her mother only cares about her older sister. And she has this feeling as if she thinks that she has no value, but the main character at the same moment screams out, "Who dared to say such a thing?" Let the lady bring this man there, and she will scold him. Leona asks if Miss Judith is okay. After all, it seems she ate too much chocolate. The main character replies that she's perfectly fine, then stands up abruptly, and one of the ladies tells her to be careful. The girl just tells them to quickly say who needs to be scolded, but at that very moment, she feels something soft behind her. The other ladies immediately rise from their seats because this man is His Majesty. The blonde man wonders where the girl is going, and Judith only asks if he came because he missed her. Theo replies that this is true because she did not come to the Imperial Palace today. The guy wonders why the lady is so drunk, and it seems like she only took a couple of sips of wine. He also wonders if the reason lies in those candies, but the main character says that time is of the essence, so they need to go quickly. The guy asks where, and the lady replies that bad guys need to be reprimanded. The blonde then turns to Lady Elzette and states that he thinks Judith needs to rest, so he wonders if he can borrow one of the guest rooms. To which the woman replies, yes, and he can be anywhere, when the emperor takes the lady in his arms. Then he thinks what a blessing it is that only women were invited to the banquet, because if only other men had seen this appearance, then he might have to gouge their eyes out. A little while later, the blonde man turns to Judith and asks how she's feeling. The girl replies that her throat is dry, after which the young man says that he will bring her something to drink. The main character tells him not to leave, but the blonde insists that she herself said that her throat was dry. He also asks how he can stay close to her, and the main character tells him to stand there, after which she sits him down on the sofa and tells him to stay with her like this. Theo turns to Judith and a little sheepishly states that he doesn't think this is the right thing to do in this situation. Well, the main character at this time asks if he is handsome, then that's all. She means that he sits and seduces a person without any effort, and this is an insidious body. And his lips are also treacherous, so she should scold him soundly, after which the girl kisses him. But when the guy addresses her again, the lady only falls asleep, and the guy asks if she is really sleeping. After which he keeps insisting that this will soon drive him crazy. The next day at the Pellegrim residence, the girl says that she has a splitting headache, and the maid asks if the mistress is okay. Judith replies that she's not feeling well at all, and asks Maria how she got home yesterday. The girl realizes she remembers eating whiskey-laced candies with Isabella. The maid claims that His Majesty personally brought the lady to the residence, and because of this, his lordship and the young lords were in terrible indignation. To say that it was a commotion is to say nothing, as the main character recalls the previous night. She also remembers Theo's expression and realizes that she suggested that he keep his distance, saying that she should prepare herself mentally, and then attacked him. The lady imagines how discouraged he was, and then cries out that she will not go to the Imperial Palace today. Marie asks what this lady main character is talking about. She says again that she won't go, and that's it. A little while later, the girl reads the book and realizes that she didn't go to the Imperial Palace, and now she has to suffer from boredom. But at that very moment, someone runs into the lady's room and says that something bad has happened. Judith asks Mary what happened. The girl replies that it was His Majesty. He came to her personally. The main character, shocked, asks what she's talking about, after which the butler knocks on the door. And she tells the lady that His Majesty has arrived. At this moment, Mary greets the son of the Empire, and the Emperor asks if Judith is still asleep. To which the maid replies yes, after which the guy looks at the main character and smiles. Judith wondered if he had already left, but then she heard a sound near her. It turned out to be His Majesty sitting down on the bed. The blonde man asks how the lady is feeling, and the main character wonders if he is still there. The girl replies that she is fine, and the guy asks if this is true, because if so, he is glad to hear it. The guy also lifts the lady up and claims that he has come all this way, so why would she not even show him her face? The main character is just embarrassed and tells him to let her go. The blonde guy claims that yesterday she was the first to sit on his lap, but today she doesn't want to. Judith replies that yesterday she committed a crime against him, worthy of eternal sleep. The guy asks what exactly and thinks how cute it is. Judith claims she was drunk and behaved inappropriately in front of him. She called him by his first name in front of everyone and spoke too tactlessly. In her mind, the lady adds that she also possessed him and even managed to kiss him. Judith insists that she won't get drunk anymore, and the guy replies that it's a good idea. After all, if she appeared like this in front of other men, it would create some difficulties for him too. Judith, meanwhile, realizes there's not a shred of laughter in his eyes, which is why she's afraid. But the guy at this time says that it seems that the lady never scolded him properly. The main character remembers what happened last night and almost cries, after which the blonde asks what happened, and the lady only tells him not to tease her. That same evening in the Imperial Palace, the blonde man realizes that he will no longer be able to see Judith today. At this time, the Marquise says that since he had put his work aside and was heading to the ducal residence, why shouldn't he stop frowning? She also says that thanks to His Majesty, who called her, and then suddenly disappeared, she smiled all this time while walking around the Imperial Palace. The guy then says that she came, and the woman replies that yes, and asks why he called her. And since he made her wait, it means it's important. The blonde says that she needs to find someone, and also that she should conduct as quietly as possible an investigation into the Tempest Guild together with Chiron. The woman then slams her hands on the table and asks why on earth she should cooperate with this man, and how important a bird is the one who needs to be found. The blonde is silent for a moment, and then claims that Icart has shown up. The Marquise, shocked, asks what he is talking about, and the guy claims that according to Kyan's report, it was confirmed that he came to the Empire through Ilhist 2 months ago. Traces of chimeras were found at each base, proving his experiments related to black magic. The woman claims that it seems he is still aiming for Theo's place, and she told him that if the guy leaves him alive, it will end in disaster. The blonde is silent for a moment in response to this, and then claims that if he starts to act personally, any smart person will guess that Icart is alive, and that is why he entrusts the search to the two of them, and in such a way that it will not be noticeable in any way. The girl asks if he is really worried that the rebels will go over to his side, and that such a force will hardly be able to have any influence on him. The guy replies that yes, they do not pose a threat to him, and knowing this, they will incredibly try to put pressure on him in other ways. The woman asks if by another method he means Judith, and if they really think they will attack her. Elsette claims that when she saw the mention of marriage in the letter, she thought it was some kind of joke. But is the guy really serious about Lady Pellegrim? The blonde is silent for a moment after that. But he claims that, as she said, Icart must have set his sights on his place, and Valdemar this empire united by conquering neighboring countries. Therefore, there are still many who harbor misfortune, and risk factors that could become a source of rebellion must be eliminated in advance. The Marquise then says that, okay, she's not eager to do so, but she will still cooperate with Chiron, and together, they will follow the trail of the guild called the Tempest. However, even if they find and plunge the prince into a crippled sleep, as long as Lady Pellegrim is the Emperor's beloved, she will continue to be threatened. And he can't keep her by his side forever. After which the Marquise leaves, and the blonde man claims she's touched on too sensitive a subject. Theo realizes that he knew from the beginning how selfish it was of him to tie Judith to himself. And because of the promise she made in early childhood, which she doesn't even remember. And one night spent by mistake. Well, at least he knows it, however, when the lady said that he would no longer be lonely and she would become his family. After which she gave a ring as confirmation of the given promise, as a sign that she would marry. At this time, the young lady is dreaming of something, and the girl wonders if it is a dream, but she realizes that the environment seems too familiar for a dream. In this dream, the young man calls out his name, but at the same moment, the maid screams like a mistress and tells her to get up. The main character asks what is going on, and the maid only asks why she is sleeping so long today. After all, the lady has to go to the Imperial Palace soon, and if she doesn't start getting ready, Seryoja, she'll be late. Judith asks if she's really up that late. But a little while later, the girl is already heading toward the carriage. Her father turns to her and asks if she'll be going to the Imperial Palace today too. Judith replies that yes, she promised His Majesty she would come. Then the girl asks if something is wrong. The man replies that, to be honest, he had a disturbing dream last night, so he would like her to just stay home today. Judith insists she'll be at the Imperial Palace and asks what danger she could possibly be in there, especially since His Majesty will be nearby. The Duke asks what the girl is saying, since that idiot is the most dangerous person in the world. Judith understands that she thought things had finally settled down lately, but he's back to his old tricks. Lady also points out that she can't break a promise without a good reason, and she'll have a bodyguard with her, so her father shouldn't worry. The man then agrees. And he claims that it seems he was too worried, after which everyone tells him that their girlfriend should be careful on the road. A little while later, the main character arrives at the Imperial Palace, and Theo invites her to have some cookies today. Judith says that today they can try something else because he always adapts to her tastes, but the guy replies that no, and today he also wants cookies. A little while later, the maid is already putting cookies on the table, and the blonde man turns to the lady. He says he heard she gave the Marquise some cookies she baked herself. Judith replies that yes, she is his closest relative, and that's why she wanted to get along with her. But when the girl looks at the Emperor's face, she thinks what kind of reaction this is. Theo claims that he also loves cookies, but at the same moment, the lady hears that he can't stand sweets. And he wonders what just happened. At this moment, the blonde asks Judith what happened. And the main character apologizes and claims that she was lost in thought for a moment, so tomorrow she will bake cookies for him. And today he can enjoy what's on the table for now. When the main character picks one up, the guy just pulls her hand toward him. And he also bites into this cookie. Judith remembers something similar as a child. She asked the guy if he liked it. Now the girl is coming to her senses and wondering what's been going on with her lately. And could these really be her memories? The butler, meanwhile, asks her to forgive him for disturbing him, but he insists that everything he asked for is ready. The man agrees and says he can go. After which, the guy turns to Judith and claims that he wants to show her something, so he asks if she will go for a walk with him. As the two head into the garden, the main character says that the days are so sunny, and it looks like summer has fully come into its own. Judith wondered if he just wanted to show Hayes the garden, even though she was a little nervous about what her father had said this morning. But Theo is acting absolutely the same as usual. At the same moment, a wind blows outside. His Majesty turns to the lady and asks if she's all right. Judith replies that it was just the unexpected wind that surprised her. And when the girl turns around, she wonders if it's really snow. Then she catches something in her hand. And she realizes it's not snow when the main character looks around. She sees a multitude of cherry trees and says how beautiful they are. Theo asks her if she likes it. And the main character answers His Majesty that it is so beautiful that she feels as if she is sleeping. The girl also asks how the cherry tree can bloom at such a time, and the guy replies that in the northern part of the empire, the trees have not yet blossomed, so he ordered several to be brought to the capital. When the flowers were about to bloom, all the empire's magicians were mobilized, and Sir Ludwig's abilities were truly outstanding. Well, the main character wonders why it was necessary to go so far. To which the guy replies that she herself said that she wants this to be the day when the cherry trees will bloom. The girl wonders if this is really what she's thinking. The blonde man replies that the cherry blossoms are in bloom now, so he's proposing marriage. Judith is shocked to think what kind of situation this is now, and even if he wants to get married as soon as possible, how could one resort to such madness? It defies any laws of common sense. The girl wonders if she'll really have to walk down the aisle at this rate. Theo notices her nervousness, and he claims that he knows that she is avoiding him who is the emperor. One look at her face is enough to understand this, and the title of empress must be burdensome. After all, he has many enemies, many of whom will begin to persecute the lady. However, he will not allow anyone to harm her. And she will also do whatever she wants, and make sure that anyone who threatens her cannot even set foot on the territory of the empire. He will also make the lady an empress, who will lead the most luxurious life in the history of the empire. And all she needs is to be near him. Theo asks Judith to fulfill his request. The main character understands that she wants to believe him, and this is the ideal man who is not afraid of anything. He's extremely worried just because of what's about to come out of her mouth, so the girl thinks, how could such a situation not make one hesitate? But she still apologizes to His Majesty. And she claims she can't marry him. Laren asks why. And was he really just a one-night stand for her? Judith realizes that she likes Theo, and she wants to stay with him, but if the guy suddenly chooses Serena, she will have to plunge into eternal sleep. The main character tells His Majesty that it's not that she doesn't like him, and that she just thinks that he's in too much of a hurry. Earlier, the Emperor said that he would adjust to her own rhythm, and this is why the lady asks for a little more time, so that she can get to know him better. Theo asks how much time she needs, and the main characters do not answer, that it will take until the cherry trees truly bloom. But the guy wonders what if she dumps him while he's waiting for her answer. Judith asks what he's talking about, and the Emperor replies that during their first meeting, she also ran away, leaving only a short note, and later lied that she was a servant in the Duke's house. Well then, he looks at the girl's expression and asks why she's laughing. Judith says she just suddenly realized she'd gone a bit too far. She also wonders if he's really holding on to everything that happened. And it's so sweet Judith insists there's one way to make him forget his worries, and asks if the emperor wants to listen. A little while later, the Duke asks his daughter if she is engaged to His Majesty. The girl's brother immediately asks if this guy threatened her, because if she had discussed everything with them first, well, at that very moment, the other brother says that he will simply attack the imperial palace right now. Judith realizes that she guessed that everything would be exactly like this, after which she even asserts it. She was the first to propose it to His Majesty, and he never threatened her. His Majesty constantly put off the question of marriage, so the nobles continued to pester him with marriage proposals. But now that he has a bride, the talk of marriage will die down for a while, and His Majesty himself will no longer rush the wedding, and if he stalls his interest in her, will likely cool, and then breaking off the engagement won't be a problem. Well, then her relatives are furiously asking if such a thing is even possible. The Duke claims this guy spoke with such enthusiasm that he was ready to marry her right then and there. Her brother says there's not a man in this world who has rejected Judith, and even a fool can see that, while they're engaged, he'll become even more obsessed with her. After this, Chiron looks at his brother, who asks what happened, after which he actually hits Ludwig. The main character thinks this is amazing. And when she is with these people, her self-esteem skyrockets, but Theo's feelings may actually change if the story follows the original. There are 3 months left until the Harvest Festival, when the original storyline begins, and she wants this day to come sooner. Or better yet, it would never happen at all. The lady's heart is torn apart by complex feelings. A little while later, the blonde man claims that in 2 weeks, his engagement to Lady Peregrine will take place. He also asks if anyone has any objections. The aristocrats understand that the candidate is the Empress, usually presented to His Majesty after the Council of Nobles has chosen a candidate. But His Majesty himself made the decision, and her choice fell on the daughter of the ducal house. The Duke at this time recalls how his daughter said that since the decision had already been made, the engagement would not be cancelled. And now he starts to get angry and also realizes that he said that he respects Judith's opinion. So he can't just upend everything there. The other aristocrats are looking at him, wondering if he really warned them that objections wouldn't be accepted. The blonde says that if there are no objections, then they can move on to the next point concerning preparations for the engagement. A little while later, the meeting ends, and the aristocrats heading home talk among themselves. One of them claims that the meeting was exciting, and he would never have thought that His Majesty would make such a loud statement. Someone approaches Joseph and congratulates him. It turns out to be the Marquis of Astan. The man says that Joseph refused the marriage of his daughter and his son, Caleb, so he wonders if he planned to make his daughter empress from the very beginning. The Duke rolls around and becomes enraged, realizing these words seem trivial, but inside he's seething with anger. Joseph also wonders if he even knows that his daughter is millions of times more valuable than this insignificant emperor. He also turns to the Marquis and says that it seems he misunderstood something, because even if it weren't for the emperor, he still wouldn't have given his daughter in marriage to Caleb. And rumors about his son apparently didn't reach him, because his affairs with young ladies must have left a multitude of illegitimate children knocking at the gates of the Marquis's residence. And is there a single father in the world who would want to marry his daughter to such a lecher? The Duke also wonders how he dares to even think that his daughter will go to such an idiot and let him not even dream about it. After these words, the Marquis clenches his fists, and the Duke turns and leaves. The man curses this Duke, and he asks if he really thinks that after such an insult, his daughter will be safe. That same day, on the outskirts of Ursena, a brunette is in a room primping in front of a mirror. At that very moment, someone knocks on the door and asks if they can come in. The guy replies yes and asks what happened. The servant replies that the Marquis of Astan came to him and said that he needed to see him because he had something to talk about. The guy then says that he should come in, and a little while later, the Marquis is already addressing His Highness. He also hopes he was in good health, the man asks when they last saw each other. But the brunette only claims that he was informed that he had a serious conversation. The man replies that yes, and it won't take long. Recently, a matter was decided at a meeting of nobles, and he thinks the gentleman should know what it was. The young man asks what the decision was. His interlocutor replies that His Majesty has announced his engagement to Lady Peregrine. If the emperor intermarries with the ducal house, his power will increase significantly. It goes without saying that His Highness will become the new emperor, but it is necessary to block any possibility of the emperor gaining excess power. The brunette asks what exactly he wants to say about the man, and then smirks. And he claims that he has a wonderful plan to ruin the emperor's engagement. A short time later, the marquise is already leaving. The servant turns to Mr. Icart and asks what he will do. Although there is logic in the marquise's words, the risk is too great, as his body has not yet fully recovered. The guy replies that he needs to think about the marquise's plan, and until then, let the servant do nothing and just wait for him to agree. When the guy puts his hand on his coat, his interlocutor asks if the gentleman is planning to go somewhere, to which he replies that yes. He needs some fresh air. A little while later, the guy is already in the city. He thinks about the engagement and realizes that he had no idea that his brother valued Lady Pellegrim to such an extent. And it turns out that the emperor sees her as a future empress, but he doesn't like it. At this time, the brunette sees a sign for a pastry shop in front of him and realizes that he seems to have gone crazy. But at that very moment, he begins to have an attack, and the woman turns to the guy and also becomes interested. Does he think he can meet her if he goes there? But if so, then Eichert is just ridiculous. The brunette just tells the woman to shut up, and the brunette invites him to see for himself. After all, this woman decided to marry the emperor, and he has no value as a person. Although he was born into an imperial family, he does not possess any abilities, and is a man who is not capable of ascending the imperial throne. No one needs him, and no one will love him. All that awaits him is suffering. After which, the woman asks if this is true, because in the end, even she fell into eternal sleep at his hand. At the same moment, an explosion occurs in the city, and people seeing it are shocked and also wonder what happened. One of them says to call the guards. The brunette is at the center of events at this time. With the ground crumbling beneath them, the guards run to the site of the explosion and wonder if it really happened there. But when they get closer, they realize the culprit has already escaped. One of the guards tells the other to carefully scan the area for any suspicious individuals. The accused realizes that at that moment he's had another seizure. It's dangerous to stay there, so he needs to leave. The guy understands that if he returns to the guild now, the shelter may be under threat, and he thinks about where the best place to hide is. When he approaches the Duke's estate, he thinks how tired he is, because he would really like to just take and destroy everyone. At this time, one of the guards screams that he saw this guy running in that direction, and the brunette realizes that he needs to quickly hide somewhere. At this time, the main character is in her room and asks if her father and brothers are really not in the mansion today. Marie replies that it seems both his lordship and the young gentleman are busy with their assigned duties, and she heard they should return by tomorrow. Judith asserts that for the first time in a long time, she wanted to practice magic. The lady also understands that training without her brothers is beyond her strength, and perhaps she should take a walk in the garden before going to bed. As the girl walks through the garden, she thinks how long it has been since she moved without a bodyguard. Lately, security has been following her literally on her heels. At that very moment, the lady notices something moving in the bushes, and he wonders what that sound is and whether there really is a cat sitting there. Judith approaches and asks if it really is a kitten. But at that very moment, someone covers her mouth, after which he is thrown to the floor. It turns out to be that same brunette. The guy claims that she better keep her mouth shut, because if she makes even a sound, then she will fall into eternal sleep. Judith realizes that this is a chocolate bun. Well, then the girl tries to break free, and the guy finally frees her face. Judith immediately asks why he is there, and whether he really came for the promised reward. But when she sees him breathing heavily, she says it doesn't look like that. The girl also asks if he's in any pain. But when she is about to touch him, magic suddenly emanates from the guy. Icart tells her not to touch his body and to get out, because he will be leaving soon. So let her get lost. The main character wonders what he was talking about, and this guy told her to leave and then immediately collapsed, so she doesn't understand what to do. The lady also wonders if he has fallen into eternal sleep. Then she turns the guy over onto his back. When she hears his breathing, she understands that, thank God, life has not yet left his body, but it looks like he has a serious injury somewhere. She also sees how the skin on his neck is darkening and thinks that maybe that's the reason. And even though this guy said not to touch him, saving his life is the priority. So she'll just check to see if there's an injury. However, when the girl unbuttons his shirt, he's in shock. And she thinks what it is because she feels mana from which nausea rises in her throat. Judith realizes that this is no ordinary spell, because the man's body is under a spell. The main character thinks about what she should do, because it seems to her that his life is in danger, and the lady is wondering if it is possible to somehow get rid of this nastiness. However, when the girl touches him, Everything around her darkens. Ikert, meanwhile, thinks how difficult and scary it is for him, and wonders why he alone has to go through all this. The boy sees someone addressing him and telling him where he was. At the time, the young man is sitting in the bushes. And he also wonders if this is Lady Freya. This woman was the former empress and Theo's biological mother. The woman claims that she told him that he can call her mom because he is Theo's younger brother. Well, of course, if he himself does not want it, then she will not force him. Freya also tells him to go there because she has prepared cookies and tea for him. But the young man insisted his mother would scold him, to which the woman replied that everything was fine because she would talk to Arietta. He asked if this was true, and the woman replied that yes, so let him come to her quickly, and it would be a shame if everything cooled down. After which, the guy extended his hand to her, and the lady with a smile on her face claimed that he finally took her hand. The guy understood that her hand was so warm, and it would be great if this woman was his real mother. At that very moment, the guy opens his eyes and sees the main character next to him. He immediately jumps up from his seat, and when he saw that the lady was holding his hand, he immediately pushes her away. Ikart realizes that he is still in the Pellegrim mansion, but wonders why the Duke's daughter is sleeping next to him. Well, when the guy looks at his body, he notices that the side effects of black magic that plagued his body have all disappeared. Until today, he tried everything to try to get rid of them, but it only made him worse. The uncontrollable surge of mana also subsided, and the young man wondered if it was because of her ability absorb magical power. If the lady saw what happened to him, there's a high probability she learned of his true identity. So if he now gets rid of the Duke's daughter and gets her red liquid, then this girl's ability will end up in his hands. Well, then the main character opens her eyes. Then she gets up and asks if he's still in pain. She stretches his shirt, and she claims that there was clearly some kind of disgusting mana on the guy's body, but the brunette tells her to wait. The main character, looking at his body, asks if everything has disappeared, after which she says what a relief it is. The guy is surprised by this, and the girl completely closes her eyes and then falls on him. Ikart realizes that he needs to obtain her abilities and cannot allow his true identity to be revealed. There are many reasons and excuses that indicate that he should get rid of this girl. The guy still asks why every time he is unable to touch her, even with a finger. Meanwhile, the knights are searching the brunette's base. His charges are pacing the room, worried about their master. But a little while later, the brunette enters the room, and the servant immediately says that he is safe and sound. But there were guards walking around the streets everywhere, so he was very worried about him. They said that they were increasing security because of the explosion that thundered nearby. Well, damn! No, he just turns to Verdi and claims that he is ready to accept the Marquise's offer, so let him notify him about it tomorrow. To which the servant agrees and asserts that the master's will be fulfilled. Well, he still asks what happened outside, and didn't he put on his robe when he left? The brunette then claims he lost it, and the next day, the main character stands next to the robe. She looks at her silently, but then realizes that she doesn't remember at all what happened yesterday. She only remembers that her body was enveloped in nasty mana, and after that, there was complete emptiness. Judith realizes that the guy came back to normal thanks to her ability to absorb magical power. But when she opened her eyes again, he had already disappeared, so the lady wondered if everything was okay with him. This guy's condition was extremely bad, and this was the first time she encountered such unpleasant mana. She has a feeling that it is black magic, but then the girl realizes that she must be wrong because Ikart hates Theo terribly. And if that person were Ikart, he would never have left her, who is Theo's beloved, alone. But on the contrary, he helped her several times. Then the main character thinks how the hell he got such a wound because she saw many old scars on his body. Judith understands that she needs to stop and can't think about him anymore because it's clear at first glance that he's dangerous. There are only a few days left before the engagement ceremony, so she doesn't want to get into trouble. The lady also hoped that this was her last meeting with him. A short time later, the day of Judith's engagement ceremony arrived. The maid turns to her mistress and tells her she's beautiful. The main character asks if that's true, wondering if she's dressed too flashily. The maid claims it's about an engagement to the emperor, and even if the lady indulges in even more lavish behavior, it won't be a problem. In that case, the girl says she thinks it will be difficult for her to move. The lady's brother appears at this moment and asks if Judith is ready. The protagonist turns to her brother and asks how long he's been waiting. She had just finished all the preparations and was about to go out when the guy sees his little sister. Then she starts crying and the main character asks what happened. The guy asks for forgiveness and claims that he is now overcome with mixed feelings. He also tells Judith that he thinks this is all wrong and suggests they just drop the engagement. Judith insists that she's not getting married or leaving the house as it's only an engagement. While the brunette replies that the problem is that it's an engagement, the girl interrupts her brother and insists that everything will be fine. After all, he had been at His Majesty's side for a long time, so he himself came as a very kind and sweet person. At this time, the guy asks if she talks about him as kind and sweet, after which she even says that it seems His Majesty, to whom she refers, is a completely different person, but the lady merely grabs her brother's hand and insists that at this rate they'll be late, so they suggest they hurry up. A little while later, the main character is already heading off in a carriage and thinks that she seems to be too beautiful today. Judith wonders if Theo will be happy to see her, and since we are talking about an engagement, he will obviously appear in all his glory. And she's even curious if he might be even more magnificent than usual, so she wants to meet him as soon as possible. When the carriage starts to stop, the main character wonders if they have already arrived at the Imperial Palace. But one of the servants claims there seems to be some kind of problem. Kieran turns to his sister and tells her he'll check on the matter, and that she should wait in the carriage for now, to which she agrees. After which the brunette approaches one of the guards and asks what is going on there. The man approaches the commander, who claims he came to deliver flowers for an engagement ceremony, but the merchant who received the same request passed through the gate an hour ago. The merchant who arrived earlier had almost completed the delivery. Chiron claims that this is indeed suspicious and asks if they checked the recipe, to which he replies that this is exactly how it is now and was going to check everything. Chiron says that then he will check with me. When he opens the letter, he sees that it says that he came to return what the cruel tyrant of the Empire Valdemar took. The merchant tells the master that there is clearly the seal of the imperial house there and asks if he can now enter inside. Well, the guy asks from whom he received this request, to which the man replies that it was from the manager of the imperial palace. Chiron immediately shows the merchant the letter and tells him not to dare lie, because this seal looks very much like a fake. The man replies that this cannot be, and the lady's brother asks if he has read the contents of the letter, after which he keeps asking him how the merchant dares to try to enter the imperial palace with a letter revealing his betrayal of His Majesty. But at that very moment, one of the knights turns to the commander and claims that the entire cart is filled with magic stones. The young man asks if this is really true and inquires as to what the merchant intended to do by bringing prohibited items into the imperial palace. The man replies that he's a small man and has no idea what they are, as he was simply told to deliver the goods to the imperial palace. Well, at that very moment, Chiron puts his sword to his neck and claims that the magic stone is a tool that allows one to use magic even from a distance. Even one stone is extremely dangerous, and with such a quantity, one could easily smash the entire imperial palace to pieces. The man immediately bows and claims that he was wrong and asks the master to forgive him. After all, he doesn't even know how to read and write, and that's why he really thought that it was the imperial seal. After this, the brunette says that the old man should be taken away and interrogated, and that he will first look at a separate palace and then return again, to which they agree. At this time, the man begs the master not to do this, because his small children are waiting for him at home, and if he does not return, they will fall into an eternal sleep from hunger. At this point, the main character turns to her little brother. The boy says he told her to wait inside the carriage, but the girl only says she's thinking about him and they're already late, to which he replies that he really does, and also suggests going quickly, but the girl asks what will happen to that man. The brunette replies that the magic stones are an item prohibited from being imported into the imperial palace, and since he tried to smuggle them inside secretly, he will not be able to avoid punishment. Even if he doesn't know how to read and write, the fact that he accepted a dubious request to become a luminary is his responsibility, and she shouldn't dwell on it. Judith wonders if she should really let the situation go, because anyone who takes advantage of such desperate people is essentially the worst person in the world. A little while later, Chiron asks if it's true that nothing bad will happen if his sister is alone. The main character asks what will happen if she is left alone, especially since there are knights standing in front of the door, and her father and Ludwig will arrive soon. She also tells the guy not to worry and just go, because something similar could happen again. The brunette replies that he will try to return as soon as possible, and if the lady goes somewhere, then he should definitely take the knights with him to something, and he agrees. The girl wonders if something similar happened in the original, during Theo and Judith's engagement. She's a little uneasy because she has no idea how events unfolded before the romance began. And maybe she should get some fresh air on the terrace. When the main character goes out there, someone sighs. But at that same moment, she sees someone using magic on one of the guards and wonders what it is. The lady also sees that this man has a magic stone in his hands and thinks that means there are already intruders in the castle. It seems that the merchant was just bait, and the girl understands that she needs to tell Karan about this as soon as possible. But when she is about to open the door, someone asks if the guy is looking after the duke's daughter. Well, another replies that the commander, who was the main obstacle, is now gone, and the lady is sitting alone in the room, so everything could not have worked out better. Judith wonders what they're talking about, and one of the knights claims that the order is to keep her locked up while the plan is being implemented. Even the emperor cannot afford to act rashly when his bride is in their hands. The protagonist wonders what this plan is and whether it's somehow connected to the magical stone she saw earlier. Because of the engagement ceremony, many people have gathered in the imperial palace, and if an explosion occurs, everyone will be in great danger. At the same moment, this knight turns to Lady Pellegrim and apologizes for the disturbance, after which they enter the room but realize there's no one there. One of the knights screams, "Did she really suspect something was wrong and run away?" The protagonist, standing outside the door, realizes that she absolutely cannot afford to make a mistake now, and there's no one there who can help her. The lady conjures up some water, and one of the knights asks what it is, after which the water balloons burst completely. This doesn't cause any harm to the knights, and one of them asks what it is. Another replies that it's just water. And what kind of magic could a lady who grew up in luxury and prosperity conjure up? One of them claims that they don't want to use force, so he suggests that the lady just follow them. But the main character begins using lightning magic. One of the knights claims they were told the mistress was incapable of using magic of that level. But the main character replies that this time everything will be different because water is a good conductor of electricity. The girl casts a spell on them, after which the two fall to the floor. The main character steps on the hand of one of them with her heel and wonders if she managed to disarm them. When the knights don't move, the lady realizes that she has succeeded, so she needs to quickly get rid of the magic stone in the fountain and report what happened to Chiron. A little while later, the girl is already looking for this stone, and when she gets it out of the fountain, she realizes that he is much bigger than she thought, but with such a size, he clearly poses a danger. Ludwig said that magic stones are monocrystals, and it turns out that she can absorb it with her ability. The girl does so, and also understands that the magic stone has disappeared, and then she needs to go to Chiron. But at that same moment, the lady notices that the man who hid the stone in the fountain has returned. The main character wonders why he came again, and the guy just bends over to the bushes. And he takes out another stone, after which the main character wonders if he really had more than one stone. Judith thinks what to do because she can't leave knowing that there is a huge magic stone lying there. What if while she's calling for Chiron an explosion occurs? She'll have to follow this guy absorbing all the magic stones in her path. It's much more effective to get rid of all the magic stones right now than to wait for the knights to come and search everything there. The girl also understands that it's better to take off her heels because God forbid he hears her following him. A little while later, the guy is already placing magic stones around the mansion, and the main character follows him and absorbs them. The girl, having finished with another stone, understands that it is very difficult to endlessly absorb mana. Well, then she looks at the place where that stranger should be and realizes that he has already disappeared. The lady thinks that she needs to catch up with him quickly, but when she turns the corner, he realizes he's gotten too close. At that very moment, someone grabs the lady and tells her to be quiet. It turns out to be His Majesty, and the guy turns to the lady and says that it is him. The main character asks how he knew that she was there, and he asks if, when a lady leaves her shoes, it doesn't mean that he should follow her. Theo wonders how it was possible to walk around the palace grounds barefoot, and what if she got hurt? Judith replies that she did it because she thought the heels were too loud, and it was more important to catch up with that man. The guy replies that it's nothing she should worry about, then offers to go as he'll take her to where the knights are. Judith says the man has magic stones with him, but the blonde man asks what's wrong with Togo. The main character asks what he's talking about since the people in the castle could get hurt. Theo asks if the fact that she might get hurt doesn't bother her. And does the lady really not understand at all how dangerous the steps she is now taking are, and also how it was possible to follow that suspicious man without any protection? Judith replies that she is fine because she has the ability to absorb mana, to which the guy replies that he knows, and there is nothing that he does not know about her. Then the main character asks why he treats her like this, and Theo replies that he wants the lady to be completely safe. He also claims that if something happens to her again, well, then the guy will shut up. At this time, the main character is wondering what her opinion is because she doesn't want to become a beautiful doll that will stand next to His Majesty. At that very moment, an explosion occurs, and the main character wants to run there, but His Majesty stops her. Judith says that now is not the time to stand there and chat because we need to get there quickly. The guy then bites his kupa, but then lifts the lady into his arms and says that he thinks it will be faster that way. He also tells the girl to hold on to him tightly because it is much safer. Judith agrees and hugs him. The stranger, meanwhile, looks at the damage and wonders why there aren't more explosions. After all, he hid the magic stones everywhere, but at that very moment, someone came up behind him and claimed that they had all been destroyed. But he was very brave to decide to organize something like this in the Imperial Palace. The blonde claims that if he tells who is behind him, his life will be spared. This man claims that he is immensely glad that the Emperor himself came for his soul. Well then, he opens the cloak in which many magical stones are hidden and asks if he really thinks that his reign will be eternal. The main character wonders if these are magic stones and if he is going to cause an explosion, after which the girl tells His Majesty that it is dangerous. But at that very moment, the guy makes a dash towards this man and then cuts him down completely. Judith immediately falls to her knees in excitement. The knights quickly approach, and one of them cries out that the explosion occurred in this direction. His Majesty, meanwhile, turns to Judith. He asks if she's okay, and if everything's okay, but when the guy offers her a handful of red liquid, the girl just closes her eyes. Then the lady realizes what she has done, and immediately opens them and addresses His Majesty. But at that very moment, someone else turns to the lady and asks if she is okay. It turns out that they are members of her family, and the lady claims that she is fine because His Majesty protected her. At this time, the blonde just heads towards the knights and tells them to find the remaining intruders. Judith realizes he was taller just a moment ago, but she wonders why she now feels such a huge gap between them. After inspecting the damage, it was discovered the blast zone was small, and fortunately, there were no casualties. At this time, the blonde turns to Kiran and asks how things are with the flower seller who brought the magic stones, to which the guy replies that his innocence was confirmed, and he thinks that he was bait to attract the attention of the guards. The Emperor asks if they have captured all the henchmen, to which he replies that they are now trying to find out who is behind all this. The blonde man says that this is good and orders Sir Kiran to supervise the knight's work, to which he agrees and then leaves. Theo claims that they will postpone the engagement ceremony to another day, and the main game does not care what he is talking about. The blonde man claims that if Judith follows the current schedule, it will become too much of a burden for her, and he thinks that it would be better to go home today and rest. Well then, the main character gets up and says that she is completely fine and not hurt at all. At this time, the Marchioness asserts that if Lady Pellegrim does not object, she would like the engagement ceremony to take place today, as scheduled, since postponing the engagement is a waste of the budget. The reason the enemies chose today as the date of the attack was probably to show the nobles what they were capable of, so wouldn't it be better to demonstrate the authority of the imperial family at such a moment? Ludwig claims that what the Marquise said makes sense, and asks if Judith is really okay. The main character replies that on the contrary, she will feel more tired if the engagement is postponed to another day. And those who intruded seem to want to stop the engagement ceremony, so even if they set another day for the engagement, the same thing could happen, and she also thinks that the engagement ceremony should be held today. The lady's brother says that if she's already decided, so be it. The main character turns to His Majesty, and she looks at him disparagingly, after which the guy says fine, and suggests they go ahead with the engagement ceremony as scheduled. A little while later, the two are already in the church, and the priest tells them to finally swear their vows with a kiss. The main character's relatives are only enraged by this, and the girl understands that these two must under no circumstances destroy the Imperial Palace's property. It's a good thing Kiran went on patrol after all. After which, the blonde pulls the lady towards him, and the main character asks what happened, and maybe something's bothering him. The guy replies that it's nothing of the sort, and that the lady is simply too beautiful. The guy kisses her on the forehead, and the priest announces the end of the engagement and congratulates the two. At this time, the main character is thinking about what just happened, and she has the feeling that he is keeping silent about something. A few hours later, they are already heading to the banquet hall to celebrate their engagement. The eldest son of the Marquis of Astan, named Caleb Astan, says that this girl is so proud to have become the emperor's bride. He also turns to his friend and asks if he is not curious how she managed to seduce the emperor. After all, there are rumors that she seduced the emperor with her body, and perhaps this lady is much more vulgar than it seems at first glance. The brunette then turns to Caleb and claims that he better watch his language, because if someone hears, they will be in big trouble. But at that very moment, the two see the Duke standing before them. Caleb realizes he's in trouble and wonders how much he's heard. But nevertheless, there are a lot of eyes there, and therefore he will not be able to do anything to him, and the blonde claims that it is a great honor for him to meet the man who will become the national leader in the future. But at that very moment, the guy gets punched in the face, causing him to fall to the floor. Meanwhile, the brunette supports his colleague and apologizes to his lordship, as his friend had been drinking heavily and wasn't aware of his actions. The Duke asks if the boy thinks that alcohol is an indulgence that washes away all sins. Well, the blonde at that very moment gets up from his seat and screams, "How dare the Duke!" after which he is about to hit him. But the man merely pushes the boy away with his foot, causing him to fall to the floor. The young man's father is shocked by this, after which he approaches the guy and asks what's going on. He also turns to Joseph and asks what he did to his son. But the Duke replies that the Marquis should have raised his child better, so that nothing like this would happen, and it seems that his son is not able to watch his language when he sings. The man also claims they're celebrating his precious daughter's engagement, so he should take that creature and get the hell out of there. The Marquis then flies into a rage and declares he'll never forgive him. A little while later, he comes out with his son. The main character turns around and thinks what it is, because some strange noise is coming from that side. Judith also turns to her father and asks if something has happened, but the man replies that nothing special has happened and she needn't pay attention. More importantly, she looks very tired, so he asks if she wants to rest. The main character asks how the celebration will go without her, and the man replies that everything is fine since the banquet is already drawing to a close, and especially since His Majesty is there, even if she's not there. Judith realizes that, frankly, she's a little tired after what happened that afternoon. After which, the lady even asks her father to tell His Majesty that she'll rest a bit in an empty room, and he agrees. A short while later, the main character lies down on the bed and sighs, realizing she now feels alive. Today was truly a crazy day, but she's nevertheless glad they finally managed to complete the engagement ceremony. The girl wonders if it's because she's stopped being nervous, her legs, her eyes drooping, and then she completely falls asleep. A little while later, someone else enters the room and approaches her. It turns out to be His Majesty, and the guy just watches the girl silently wondering if she's having nightmares. Well, when he touches her face, the lady immediately opens her eyes, and he turns to His Majesty. The girl rises from the bed and asks when he arrived and how things are going with the banquet. When she reaches out to him, the guy merely pulls away. Judith asks if she somehow ruined his mood, considering he's been acting out of character all day and didn't seem happy at all during the engagement ceremony. She also says it might be because she didn't listen to him until the very end. But the guy replies that it's not that, and he wouldn't hate her for such a trifle, and he just didn't want the engagement ceremony to go like this. He didn't want her to have to overexert herself like that, and he also hoped it would be the happiest and most joyful day of her life.